Chapter 1095. The King of Fire's aura alone was enough to suppress the three of them. Those who were originally worried were all astonished when they saw this scene. Even Wan Yonggong and the others had an incredulous look in their eyes. A powerful evil lord Li Zongjio. Now there was a mysterious woman. This is. Wan Yonggong's voice was clearly trembling. He couldn't help but tremble in front of this power. My master's name is King of Fire. Li Yun said proudly. This powerful woman was her master. Therefore, Li Yun was naturally very proud. King of Fire. Wan Yonggong and the others muttered this name silently. They had clearly memorized this name. Indeed, when one's strength was strong, the people around one would also be experts of the same level. Therefore, if one wanted to enter a higher circle, the first thing one had to do was to increase one's strength. Only by improving oneself could one ensure that one's position in this circle was stable. Otherwise, one would just be a bystander. The addition of the King of Fire's level was also very surprising for Wan Yulan. She had never thought that such a situation would occur. The entire scene was almost completely settled by the King of Fire and Li Zongjio. However, she was now prepared to watch the battle between the King of Fire and the three Supremes. The experts from the arena all retreated to the side. Since even the Supremes had taken action, they naturally had nothing to do with it. Hence, they simply walked to the side. Originally, there were more than 100 people, but now, there were less than 60 people left in the blink of an eye. Among them, more than half of them were injured. Therefore, the outcome was not complete. All of them were beaten up by Li Zongjio. More than 100 people against Li Zongjio. But in the end, they ended up in such a situation. It was truly shameful. At this moment, the Supreme Being level experts of the three great hardship towers appeared. Although they felt King of Fire's powerful aura, the three of them didn't care at all. Two of them directly surrounded the King of Fire, while the other one attacked Li Zongjio. Hang in there. I'll cripple them and then help you. King of Fire looked at Li Zongjio. It seemed that he still had a high chance of winning in a 1 versus 2 situation. However, Li Zongjio felt insulted. Let's see who kills faster. Li Zongjio said indifferently. Since the King of Fire wanted to compete, he naturally did not mind. On the other hand, the King of Fire also unleashed his world of flames, pulling the two ascetics into his world. Then he disappeared in an instant. If the three Supreme Being level experts were to fight, the entire Black Canal Royal City would be in trouble. Therefore, the battlefield was limited to the domain world. However, Li Zongjio wasn't so particular. One of the Supreme Being level ascetics stared at Li Zongjio from afar and smirked coldly at Li Zongjio. How dare you call yourself evil lord? The ascetic cultivator said calmly. He raised his hands, and there seemed to be a string of prayer beads in his palms. Evil lord is not for you to call me. You should call me grandpa. Li Zongjio looked at the other party and said. He had just entered the Supreme Being level. Where did he get the courage to be so arrogant in front of Li Zongjio? He really didn't know his place. However, the ascetic cultivator in front of him was indeed stronger than Gu Tsangtian, because the latter had already entered the Supreme Being level and had the body of an Supreme Being. Remember, the person who killed you is called Ku Ming. The ascetic cultivator Ku Ming said coldly. As his voice faded, he threw the prayer beads in his hand at Li Zongjio. Boom, boom, boom. 9 prayer beads immediately whizzed over, and each of them contained a terrifying force. This attack wasn't only aimed at Li Zongjio, but also at Wan Yulan and the rest who were behind Li Zongjio. Although Wan Yulan and the rest were far away, the 9 prayer beads had enough power to destroy Wan Yulan and the rest. Therefore, Li Zongjio could only take this attack head-on. Otherwise, Wan Yulan and the rest would definitely die. In Ku Ming's opinion, dealing with someone like Li Zongjio was a piece of cake. However, something unexpected happened right in front of Ku Ming's eyes. Behind Li Zongjio, the shadow of a golden dragon seemed to have condensed. The golden dragon appeared. Wit's huge body was close to 500 meters long. After circling half around in the air, it directly used the divine dragon tail whip and used its own strength to bounce the 9 prayer beads back. Bang bang bang. Immediately, the prayer beads were bounced back. They directly smashed into the Black Canal Basilica. Boom! Boom! The entire Black Canal Basilica was razed to the ground. Even some of the most important places and buildings with defensive arrays were destroyed at this moment. The power of your prayer beads is not bad. Li Zongjiu couldn't help but praise. It was originally a move used to kill Li Zongjiu, but now Li Zongjiu turned it around and destroyed more than half of the entire Black Canal Basilica. Not only that, but basically everyone in the Black Canal Basilica was also severely injured. Some of the weaker ones were directly killed. Under the explosion, no one was spared. You're courting death. A giant black eagle suddenly emerged from behind Ku Ming. The giant eagle spread its wings, covering the sky and the sun. Its huge body directly pressed towards the golden dragon behind Li Zongjiu. The golden dragon's origin spirit behind Li Zongjiu was not afraid at all. It directly roared in a low voice and rushed forward. With a claw, it slapped the giant eagle under its claws. At the same time, it opened its mouth and spat out a golden light. Whoosh! The golden light was like a sharp sword, directly penetrating the giant eagle's head. Instant kill. The battle between the origin spirits had reached the level of instant kill. Ku Ming's expression suddenly changed. This was simply a humiliation. A mere origin emperor-level origin spirit could actually kill his sovereign-level origin spirit. Where did all his years of cultivation go to? If it was before, it obviously wouldn't have such strength. However, with Li Zongjiu's breakthrough, coupled with the fact that the golden dragon's origin spirit was a top existence among the sovereigns, being provoked by an origin beast that had just entered the sovereign realm, it would naturally be very angry. Therefore, when it attacked, it had the power of instant kill. The origin spirit was instantly killed in front of everyone, and Ku Ming's face suddenly became ugly. You are courting death. Ku Ming's own origin force condensed into a vortex. As the vortex's power condensed, it directly attracted Li Zongjiu. Chapter 1096. The black vortex condensed in front of Ku Ming erupted with an endless devouring power, swallowing everything around it. Some things were directly sucked into the vortex. It was very obvious that once these things were sucked into the vortex, they directly turned into the most essential Yuan Li, which instantly turned into Ku Ming's own strength. It's the devouring vortex. This is Ku Ming Supreme. Rumor has it that this person is most proficient in the art of devouring. If someone is sucked into the vortex, in less than a second, they will directly turn into the 5 elemental origins. No one is an exception. Wan Yonggong's explanation was very timely. The surrounding people could only feel that this move was very powerful, but they didn't know that it was so powerful. If Li Zongjiu was sucked into the vortex, they didn't know what would happen to him. Would Li Zongjiu be able to withstand the devouring power of the vortex? Li Zongjiu directly threw the black dragon hammer in his hand. It seemed that he wanted to use the black dragon hammer to defeat his opponent, but the black dragon hammer was directly sucked into the vortex. It was sucked into the vortex in an instant. It was devoured just like that. Ku Ming was extremely proud because he had heard that the black dragon hammer in Li Zongjiu's hand was quite powerful. The reason why Li Zongjiu was able to use the name Evil Sovereign was partly because of the hammer in his hand, but now it had been directly devoured. His strongest killing move had been subdued. What else could he do? But soon Ku Ming couldn't laugh anymore. The devouring vortex could devour everything, but there was one kind of power that it couldn't devour. That was the devouring power. If these two forces were entangled, the situation would be very bad. Not good. It's a trap. Ku Ming's face suddenly changed. The black dragon hammer didn't seem to be affected by the devouring vortex at all. Instead, it erupted with a similar devouring power, directly sucking in the power of the vortex. Obviously, it wanted to form a collision of forces. The originally stable devouring vortex immediately became restless. If it continued, it was very likely that it would hurt itself. Damn it! Ku Ming dispersed his devouring power, and the black dragon hammer flew back. Ku Ming saw with his own eyes that the black dragon hammer fell back into Li Zongjiu's hand. Li Zongjiu leaped up and rushed in front of Ku Ming, and then the hammer fell down. Wang! The hammer fell to the ground and lightning flashed. The lightning that surged in all directions was simply as dazzling as an extremely grand fireworks display. Luckily, Ku Ming's Yuan Qi was able to automatically defend himself, and with the Ji Zun's body protecting him, he was able to absorb this energy. However, Ku Ming himself was also knocked back. The power of this move was too strong, directly smashing Ku Ming to the ground. In the distance, Wan Yonggong and the others saw Li Zongjiu beat up Sovereign Ku Ming with a hammer. Everyone was so shocked that they couldn't close their mouths. The scene in front of them was too shocking. It was hard to believe that such a thing could happen. Li Zongjiu's strength was too strong. The experts in the arena who had been hiding at the side had experienced Li Zongjiu's brutal beating, and then the explosion of Ku Ming's prayer beads. Now there were less than 30 people who could still stand. There were even a few who directly vomited blood and died because of their heavy injuries. Their fates were quite miserable and pitiful. However, at this moment they saw something. It was actually Li Zongjiu suppressing Ku Ming. A dignified Ji Zun couldn't even defeat a little guy. It was embarrassing. If Li Zongjiu didn't die, then all their previous efforts would have been in vain, and all their sacrifices would have been in vain. Who could bear such an outcome? Who would be willing to accept such an outcome? Therefore, in their hearts, they all wanted Li Zongjiu to be killed. Stay here obediently. Li Zongjiu pointed with his finger. Ku Ming, who was about to get up from the ground, was puzzled as to what Li Zongjiu was going to do. In the next second, he saw 8 rays of light instantly fall around him. Boom! 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 The burning soul pillar fell to the ground, giving off a feeling of a steel spear piercing into one's bones. Array! Supreme Ku Ming sneered. No one's formation can trap a supreme being. Immediately, Ku Ming wanted to prove his words. A tyrannical aura instantly erupted from his body and swept out in all directions. He wanted to destroy the burning soul array. However, the burning soul array didn't move at all. It easily refined this power and activated the burning soul array. Afterward, Ku Ming immediately felt as if his soul was being burned. You want to refine my soul? I'm afraid you don't know how to cultivate in the hardship tower. If you want to refine my soul, you won't be able to do it without at least 100 years. Clearly, Ku Ming was very confident in his own strength. In his opinion, this was just a small trick by Li Zongjiu. However, soon Ku Ming couldn't laugh anymore. This was because the pressure from the surrounding formation made Prime Ku Ming feel the same pressure he felt when he first stepped into the hardship tower. It was a suffocating feeling. Not good. This power isn't simple. Ku Ming originally wanted to break the array by force, but now he had no choice but to sit down and concentrate on resisting the threat of the array. However, even after concentrating, his soul was still invaded by this power. Weren't you laughing happily just now? How about this? I'll add fuel to the fire. Li Zongjiu flicked his finger. Immediately, a ray of flame fell into the array. As the flame fell to the ground, a terrifying aura immediately swept up. This was the power of this flame. Spiritual fire. The original body of the ancient and modern towering flame appeared. It would be very happy and satisfied to burn the power of a Ji Zun expert. What, damn it? Quickly take this person down. Get me out of here at all costs. Ku Ming finally began to ask the people of Black Canal Basilica for help. However, there weren't many people left alive in Black Canal Basilica. When they heard Ku Ming's call, some people wanted to take action. At this moment, Wan Yulan and the others had already arrived. As members of the Anti-Black Alliance, they naturally couldn't do nothing during this process. Leave these people to us. Wan Yulan came in front of Li Zongjiu and said, As you wish. Li Zongjiu gestured. The people of the alliance behind Wan Yulan had been thirsting for blood for a long time. They couldn't wait to kill all the people in front of them. After all, this group of loyal and righteous people had been oppressed by the people of Black Canal Basilica for a long time. Now that they finally found the opportunity, the people of Black Canal Basilica were all killed. There weren't many people left alive in the first place. The helpers called in by the arena were also at a loss. At this moment they seemed to be on the wrong side. However, now that the Black Canal Basilica's momentum was gone, if they continued to be stubborn, the consequences would be very serious. Therefore, these people were very smart. They turned around and killed the people of Black Canal Basilica. Chapter 1097. Trapped in the soul-burning array, Kuming didn't have time to consider the situation outside. He was furious. Why didn't these people come to save him? What a bunch of trash. They couldn't even handle these people. Now he could only wait for his two brothers to appear. After killing the little girl, he would rush out to kill Li Zongjio and save him. He just needed to hold on a little longer. All of a sudden, a spatial rift seems to have been torn open in the sky. Behind the rift was a world of fiery red flames. What? Kuming sensed that the King of Fire had appeared. When he took a closer look, he realized that the Fire Wraith King was holding two heads in his hands. It seemed that the rest of the heads had been burned. What kind of people were this pair of man and woman? Kuming felt a wave of fear from the bottom of his heart. He had painstakingly cultivated for hundreds of years, but today, he was killed by two little brats. How could he bear it? This world was too unfair. He even felt like crying. At this moment he was the one who felt powerless. In front of such a terrifying opponent, he had completely lost the will to resist. There was only one path left, and that was to give up. Evil Lord, the Temple Master won't let you go. You'd better start running now. Kuming glared fiercely into Li Zongjio's eyes. However, with a single glance from Li Zongjio, Supreme Kuming was swallowed up by the towering flame. The towering flame had been probing him all this while, and now, it erupted and instantly occupied Supreme Kuming's body, breaking through his defenses. After a miserable scream, Autark Kuming was directly burned to death. His soul had also been completely incinerated. At this moment he no longer resisted. Therefore it was very convenient for him to die. This surprised Li Zongjio. This person is too weak. He died just like that. Li Zongjio couldn't help but shake his head. How could such a weak person be a supreme being? It was mainly because the two heads in King of Fire's hands were too frightening. These were the heads of two supreme being experts. Just like that it was plucked off. It was no wonder that Kuming would collapse like this. After all, Li Zongjio had already subdued him. Now that another one had appeared, there was no longer any hope for him. Moreover, he was very clear about the strength of his two companions. Even the two of them couldn't defeat this girl. There was basically no hope left. Spitting out such vicious words before they died was obviously just to satisfy their cravings. These people were really, if they didn't spit out a vicious word before they died, they would feel unworthy of their status. You're very fast. Li Zongjio looked at King of Fire in astonishment. King of Fire's strength was increasing rapidly. Ever since that awakening, his strength had been constantly increasing. This breakthrough had something to do with his physique, as well as the accumulation he had accumulated previously. He had set it aside for today to break through. Therefore, this improvement could be said to be very big. Even Li Zongjio was envious. You're not bad yourself. You're very familiar with this soul-burning array. Originally, the soul-burning array was used by Wu Tian to control King of Fire. However, Li Zongjio had directly taken it for his own use. One had to admit that this was a very powerful weapon. Li Zongjio could use this soul-burning array to force Wu Tian away. Obviously, under the second-grade Supreme Being realm, there was no one who could match him. Even the current King of Fire might not be his match. It was hard to say what would happen in the future. In addition, there was Wu Tian, who was constantly breaking through. If one wanted to stop Wu Tian from becoming stronger, one had to first obtain the unparalleled sword. Just the unparalleled sword alone would be enough to weaken Wu Tian by half. Now, Black Canal Basilica was directly defeated by Li Zongjio and the others. However, it did not affect the opening of the Demon Suppression Palace. A mere Black Canal Basilica could not affect the Demon Suppression Palace. It was only because they had a certain method that they could obtain some information in advance. After breaking through the defense of Black Canal Basilica, there was basically no need to attack much. Previously, Kuming Supreme had destroyed many buildings by himself. Only the Hardship Tower and the Archbishop's Hall were not destroyed. In just a short while, the surviving Arch-Cardinal did not manage to escape in time, so he was immediately captured. He was thrown in front of Wan Yonggong and the others. You're all courting death, the Archbishop in red said coldly. However, when he saw the vicious looks on these people's faces, His usual dignity was no longer as effective as before. In fact, it was a complete joke. Haha, you people have killed so many loyal people. Today, the Marquis of Wanyong's residence will get rid of this evil for the people. Wan Yonggong held a machete with a tiger head in his hand. He personally went forward and crippled the archbishop in red in front of him. Immediately, a bright red head rolled on the ground. Hang his corpse in the middle of the street. Expose him to the sun for 7 days and 7 nights. Wan Yonggong said. Today they could finally hold their heads high. In the future, the imperial court would finally be peaceful. As for how the imperial court would be managed, they could think about it later. Even if it went astray, the Marquis of Wanyong's residence would have a way to correct it. However, it was very uncomfortable to be controlled by these people from Black Canal Basilica. Moreover, they could not touch them, although there were still sacred mountains that had yet to be breached. However, the destruction of Black Canal Basilica alone was enough to bring hope to the Haika dynasty. After all, Black Canal Basilica, which had stood firm for decades, was overthrown. It was like a stone tablet that suppressed justice was easily crushed today. Today's matter is all thanks to the help of the two of you. If it weren't for the two of you, we wouldn't have been able to accomplish such a magnificent thing. Wan Yonggong was obviously elated and happy. He felt much more comfortable. Wan Yulan saw that her grandfather's eyebrows were finally relaxed. She was very happy and gratified in her heart. The old man had worked hard all his life for the sake of rebuilding the dynasty. Today he finally achieved it. It's a small matter. Yulan and I are friends. Friends should help each other. Li Zhongjiu said faintly. However, his expression soon turned ugly. The King of Fire, who was beside him, also stared at him. Sneaky. Are you trying to sneak an attack on us? If so, this lord welcomes you. When Li Zhongjiu's voice faded, 2 figures walked out from the shadows. Haha. The young master of the Li family of Wuxia City is indeed worthy of his reputation. The name of evil lord is well deserved. Lu, one of the Haotian sect, admires you. Chapter 1098. Haotian sect. Li Zhongjiu and the others might not know much about it, but Wan Yonggong and the others had been trying to get in touch with the Haotian sect. The Haotian sect was a sect in the unbounded land, and its strength was incomparably powerful. A long time ago, they had a relationship with the Haika dynasty, which was why Wan Yonggong was able to get in touch with them. Originally, this operation required the support of the Haotian sect in order to win. After all, there was no one in the alliance who could contend against a sovereign. However, the Haotian sect wanted Leo to ask for it. The request was something that Wan Yonggong and the others would never agree to. Therefore, the cooperation between the two sides had been in a stalemate. After the alliance won today, the people of the Haotian sect couldn't wait to jump out. Anyone could see that he was eager for quick success and instant benefits. Originally, they were relying on the strength of their own sect. If they didn't agree, then they wouldn't take action. Who knew that the matter would be resolved without a word? There was no need for them to take action at all. Immediately, the situation became extremely awkward. Wouldn't the Haotian sect be left hanging there? Seeing that they couldn't get any benefits, the people of the Haotian sect couldn't sit still. Let me introduce you. This is an elder of the Haotian sect. Lu, one elder Lu. Wan Yonggong introduced. Even if the Black Canal Basilica was overthrown, the Haotian sect couldn't be easily provoked. Of course, compared to the Haotian sect, Wan Yonggong was more at ease. After all, the strength of the Haotian sect was mainly in the unbounded land. It was very difficult to radiate to this place. What's more, the Haotian sect couldn't use all its strength to invade the Haika dynasty. Even in the unbounded land, the Haotian sect would always have its own enemies. Therefore, this kind of thing couldn't be done so easily. Yeah, I've never heard of it. Li Zhongjiu said calmly. In his previous life, Li Zhongjiu had never heard of the Haotian sect. Either the Haotian sect was not powerful enough, or it had been destroyed long ago. Before Li Zhongjiu could become famous, the Haotian sect had already disappeared. Therefore, right now he should be making contact with them in advance. Although Li Zhongjiu was powerful, however, Lu Yuan wasn't happy to hear that. The Haotian sect's reputation was known to everyone within a radius of 1,000,000 miles. Even if it was just a tiny bit of a legend, there should have been at least some people who had heard of it. However, they had ignored it directly in front of him, an elder. They were clearly not giving him any face. If it was an ordinary person, he would have already slapped him. However, Lu Yuan glanced at the Fire Wraith King beside him. The latter's indifferent gaze gave people a feeling of lingering fear. Previously, when the King of Fire dealt with the two Supreme Being experts, no one had seen anything. No one had seen the specific situation. However, in less than 10 minutes, they had already seen the King of Fire appear with the heads of the two men in his hands. Both sides were sworn enemies, so how could it be said that they were acting? To be able to kill two Supreme Being experts in such a short period of time. This showed that the King of Fire's strength was even more terrifying. Lu Wan and the others did not dare to act rashly. The strength of these two people was not simple, and the forces behind them might not be ordinary either. If they were two Supreme Being level rogue cultivators, then it would be even more terrifying. They could kill the disciples of the sect at any time, and they would not be able to go out in the future. It was not strange for them to be able to do this. The strong were not so easy to provoke. Ahem, the Haotian sect was established in the Unbounded Land. It can be considered a semi-hidden sect. If you don't have a deep understanding of it, it would be difficult to know. Wan Yonggong tried to smooth things over. Alright, the two of you can speak frankly. What do you want to do? Li Zhongjiu raised his hand. If one's strength was insufficient, then one would constantly fawn on the strong and maintain relationships. However, with Li Zhongjiu, there was no such thing as fawning. If you have something to say, then say it. If not, then get lost. He should be giving you face by speaking a few more words with you. Wan Yonggong and Wan Yulan looked at each other. They naturally had guesses about what these people of the Haotian sect wanted to do, and Li Zhongjiu seemed to have seen through it as well. If only the people of the Wan family and the alliance were here, they would have no choice but to obey the Haotian sect, or negotiate with each other. In the end, the Haotian sect would benefit a lot. Therefore, Wan Yonggong did not want to offend them. However, Li Zhongjiu was very unyielding. Obviously, he did not give face to the two of them and the Haotian sect. At the same time, he was helping the Wan family to solve this problem. After the two of them exchanged glances, they took a step back. They gave the home ground to Li Zhongjiu and Lu Wan, but their footsteps were obviously closer to Li Zhongjiu and Wan Yulan. Their subtle movements naturally did not escape Lu Wan's eyes, and he sneered disdainfully in his heart. Did he think that just because he had Li Zhongjiu, he would be able to become their enemy? They were really too naive. With their strength, it was easy for them to investigate Li Zhongjiu's background. However, it was disrespectful to investigate someone's background at the drop of a hat. If you found someone you shouldn't be investigating, you would be the one to suffer. Therefore, this kind of thing had to be done according to the circumstances. Moreover, Li Zhongjiu could not stay in the Haika dynasty forever to protect you and your grandson. The Haotian sect would have plenty of opportunities to come. Therefore, the Haotian sect was so fearless. Sooner or later, the Haika dynasty would fall into their hands. Haha, our Haotian sect is adjacent to the Haika dynasty. Naturally, we pay close attention to the affairs of the dynasty. Get to the point. I don't have time to listen to your nonsense. Li Zhongjiu said indifferently. Kid, watch your words. Lu Wan's face darkened, but the one who spoke was the guardian next to him. The guardian stepped forward and glared at Li Zhongjiu. It seemed that he was going to attack Li Zhongjiu. The King of Fire's palm was surrounded by flames. He slapped his palm toward the guardian. He actually dared to speak to Li Zhongjiu in such a tone. Moreover, he did it in front of the King of Fire. He was simply courting death. Not good. When he sensed the incoming palm strike, the protector who had spoken up just now only cared about his mouth. He didn't even have the strength to retaliate. The only thing he could do was close his eyes. Boom! His whole body flew out directly. Boom! Although there was a ray of light around his body to protect him, he was still severely injured. However, he was still severely injured. Just the power of the shockwave alone was enough to make him spit out blood. The King of Fire retracted his hand and stood behind Li Zhongjiu again. Lu Wan, who was opposite him, broke out in cold sweat. He was only at the peak of the primitive emperor realm. If he wanted to deal with a supreme-level expert, he still needed to return to the sect and invite experts to come. When the King of Fire made his move, it naturally formed an invisible deterrence. He could clearly feel the power coming from the King of Fire. Even though it was just a light palm, it directly sent the guardian flying. Seems like you guys have to watch your words, Li Zhongjiu said seriously. This ridicule also made Lu Wan feel extremely awkward. Since this place does not welcome us, then we shall part ways here. See you again. Lu Wan turned around and left after saying that. After all, one of his companions was injured. If he did not get help in time, he might be crippled. Go back and tell your sect master that if he wants to live a long life, he should know his place. Don't get involved in some things. Li Zhongjiu said indifferently. These words made Lu Wan extremely angry. He clenched his fists and felt a great humiliation. He actually warned their sect directly. However, Lu Wan's strength was not strong enough, so he could not say much. If his words made Li Zhongjiu unhappy, the King of Fire next to him might hit him again. Therefore, he could only bear with such humiliation and leave the Haiku royal city. Even the elders of the Haoyan sect were defeated and had to return. Wan Yonggong finally saw how powerful Li Zhongjiu was. He was simply too domineering. Thank you. My Wan family will never forget the kindness that Li Xiao has shown to our Haiku dynasty. No need for pleasantries. You guys deal with it yourselves. We will stay in the city and set off for the Demon Suppression Palace in a few days. Chapter 1099. Wan Yulan and the others found information about the Demon Suppression Palace from the Black Canal Basilica. It turned out that the Black Canal Basilica had always kept a tool from the Demon Suppression Palace. On the surface, it looked like a stone cauldron. However, it could sense the opening of the Demon Suppression Palace. As long as there was any movement in the Demon Suppression Palace, the stone cauldron would shine. Through the guidance of the stone cauldron, they could finally find the opening time and place of the Demon Suppression Palace. This thing is called the Bell Cauldron. It's a kind of guiding tool. Li Zhongjiu was surprised when he saw the stone cauldron. He didn't expect the people of the Black Canal Basilica to have such a good thing. This was a treasure that could accurately time itself. Even though it could only be used in a specific setting, it was still extremely effective. Those who possessed this item would be able to live longer, at least within the Demon Suppression Palace. It was a life-saving item. You know about it too? Wan Yulan looked at Li Zhongjiu. Even though Wan Yulan had collected a lot of information to study the Demon Suppression Palace, she didn't expect the thing in front of her to have such a wonderful function. I'm just guessing. I've seen it a few times before. But it's not from the Demon Suppression Palace. Li Zhongjiu said. The before he was talking about was a long time ago. It wasn't a decade ago. Just when everyone was surrounding the stone cauldron, there was a sudden vibration from the inside of the stone cauldron. Buzz, buzz, buzz. As the stone cauldron vibrated slightly, everyone looked over. It was rare to see such an amazing scene. What's going on? Why is the cauldron vibrating on its own? In the whole room, only the stone cauldron was vibrating slightly. Without a doubt, the vibration came from the inside of the stone cauldron. Its resonance with the Demon Suppression Palace. Li Zhongjiu scooped up the energy from the stone cauldron and placed it in the room. With the injection of Yuan power, the vibration in the stone cauldron turned into a ray of light. What was shown in the light was the faintly discernible Demon Suppressing Palace. The majestic Demon Suppressing Palace was displayed in front of his eyes. He could feel the terrifying energy emanating from it. Just by looking at the illusory image of the Demon Suppressing Palace, he already had the feeling of wanting to kneel down and worship it. Such a vast and mighty aura was truly frightening. This is the ancient land of the 9 cities. Li Zhongjiu and the others were not familiar with the terrain of the Heichu dynasty, but Wan Yulan was very familiar with it. Furthermore, the 9 cities was also an extremely famous place. It was unexpected that the Demon Suppression Palace would appear in the ancient land of the 9 cities. Looks like it's going to be another bloodbath. With the Demon Suppression Palace appearing in such a place, the native forces of the 9 cities won't let it pass so easily. Moreover, the situation in the 9 cities is extremely chaotic. It's extremely dangerous. Wan Yulan said solemnly. Such a dangerous relic appeared in such a dangerous place. What else was there to say? It was definitely going to be a dangerous journey. From Wan Yulan's words, Li Zhongjiu and the rest understood that the so-called ancient land of the 9 cities was the no-man's land of the Haika dynasty. It wasn't that the Haika dynasty didn't want to take care of it. It was because the terrain was steep and the army couldn't break in. A long time ago, there were 9 power centers in the ancient land of the 9 cities. They were all different levels of armies and even sections. But later, these power centers were destroyed. However, the subordinates and experts they brought all chose to stay in the ancient land of the 9 cities. Over time, the ancient land of the 9 cities became a place of contention for various forces. No one knew what they were fighting for. But because of the geographical environment and some special reasons, the Haika dynasty didn't manage the ancient land of the 9 cities. It attracted many bandits and bandits. As long as you could enter the ancient land of the 9 cities, the Haika dynasty wouldn't pursue you. The outside world was not allowed to bring people in to capture people. It formed its own small order. In fact, there were many places like this. Li Zhongjiu was in a high position. He also understood that it wasn't that the Haika dynasty didn't want to take care of such places. It was deliberately set up such places for better surveillance and control. Think about it. A group of vicious criminals wandering around the Haika dynasty. It was safer for them to all gather in one place. It was more convenient to come to a place you knew. If they really wanted to kill you, you couldn't stop them. The 14th prince of the Xingyan dynasty was now in such a place. In such a place, it was useless to be careful, because these people's methods would infiltrate in all kinds of ways. They were pervasive and impossible to guard against. The only way was to use strength to declare one's attitude. Only in this way, they wouldn't dare to provoke you. Wan Yulan handed over her position as the Haiku Alliance leader and let Wan Yonggong take over again. She set off with Li Zhongjiu and the others on the same day. They were heading to the ancient land of the 9 cities. Now that the stone cauldron had told them the specific location, of course, they had to wait here first. They didn't know the exact time when it would open. Li Zhongjiu and the King of Fire teamed up, so they didn't need to share the Demon Suppression Palace's ruins with others. Let the others eat the leftovers of Li Zhongjiu and the others. The Qilin warship hovered outside a black mountain range. In the dense forest ahead, there seemed to be many hidden dangers. Many people's eyes were fixed in the direction of the Qilin warship. We've been locked on, Li Yan said. The Qilin warship was also equipped with Yuan energy detection equipment. When they were locked on, an alarm sounded. Obviously, the opponent's firepower was very strong. If they rushed over recklessly, they might not be hurt, but the warship would definitely be destroyed in an instant. The Eagle warship had been destroyed before. This made Li Yan even more distressed. A warship with such good performance was very good in her hands. Although the Qilin warship was good, its performance couldn't catch up with the Eagle warship. In the current situation, the Eagle warship could fly over directly, but the Qilin warship couldn't. As long as we land, there won't be a problem. Although the 9 cities old haunt is chaotic, it's also the biggest black market. All the stolen goods in the country will be traded here. A grand auction is even held every year. After all, there are often many treasures in places like this. Wan Yulan explained. Every place had its own rules. Wan Yulan was afraid that Li Zhongjiu was not afraid of anything. If he rushed out directly, it would definitely lead to a big disaster. Alright, let's land. Keep a low profile. Let's find the location of the Demon Suppression Palace first. In front of the natural barrier, there was a city wall. If they wanted to enter, they had to go through the city gate first. The city gate was under the jurisdiction of one of the 9 cities, Soldier City. Now there were 9 top forces in the 9 cities old haunt, and each of them controlled a certain territory. Of course, these territories had to be fought over in this way. If one's strength wasn't enough, the territory would be easily taken away by others. 5,000 per person to enter the city. When Li Zhongjiu and the other 3 approached, some of the people in charge of guarding the city gate of Soldier City looked at the 3 women. Each of them was better than the other. Such women were very valuable in the 9 cities old haunt. Although Li Zongjio's appearance looked simple, the arrogant temperament on his body was not fake. This amount of money was very cheap for a young master like him. He must be a young master who didn't care about his life and wanted to participate in the auction in the 9 cities old haunt. He wanted to see the world, but he didn't know that it was easy to lose his life in such a place. You want 5,000? Why don't you just rob? Do you have the right to charge? Li Zongjio didn't have much concept of money. Anyway, if he didn't have enough, he would just extort some. However, Li Yun knew that it was not easy to earn money. But these people who looked like bandits in front of her actually wanted 20,000 gold coins. Li Yun wouldn't give them this amount of money even if she was beaten to death. Hey, we actually met some stupid people. Since you don't want to pay, don't think about going in. Let's go in from other places. The leader of the group said arrogantly. There was only one entrance to the 9 cities old haunt. It was impossible to enter from other places. Therefore, they occupied such an important toll gate. Naturally, they had to ask for an exorbitant price. However, the price varied from person to person. Chapter 1100. King of Fire frowned. They actually dared to stop them from entering. How could a mere wall be able to stop all of them? Wan Yulan took a step forward and took out her token from the marquee residence. Oh, so you're from the marquee residence. Unfortunately, any token is useless here. When those people saw Wan Yulan's token, they were a little surprised. However, they quickly calmed down and said with disdain. They did not care about the token in Wan Yulan's hand at all. Stop talking nonsense. Here are 20 gold coins. If you don't let us pass, then don't blame us for being rude. Li Yun said directly. Then, she threw a bag of gold coins over. When the man in the lead received the bag of money, his face immediately turned ugly. Because Li Yun used such a small amount of money to humiliate them. Were they, the people of Soldier City, only worth such a small amount of money? Fuck, how dare you humiliate me? There was a loud boom. The city gate was opened, and a group of people wearing the same clothes walked out. When they saw these people walking out, the arrogant gatekeeper also stood up and saluted. Greetings, General. Greetings, General. However, the general who walked out did not even bother to greet the person next to him. He walked directly to Li Zongjio and the others and bowed respectfully. Is Lord Evil Lord here? Evil Lord? The few people guarding the city gate were also slightly shocked in their hearts. Who was Evil Lord? Their ranks were relatively low, so the news had not yet reached their ears. However, since the land of 9 cities was so large and complete, they must first achieve a certain level of efficiency in obtaining information. They had just received news that Evil Lord and Supreme Flame had destroyed Black Canal Basilica. Now they heard that Evil Lord and Supreme Flame were standing in front of the city gate, guarded by the people of Soldier City. After receiving the news, the general of Soldier City, Huang Weihu, immediately brought people to welcome them. There were a total of 9 forces in the land of 9 cities. Each force was named after the city, but the highest commander was called a general. He was not the city lord. Whoever dared to call himself the city lord would be beaten up. Everyone would be beaten up together. That was the result. When Huang Weihu and the others arrived, they found that Li Zongjio and the others were blocked at the entrance. Luckily, they hadn't made a move yet. They heard that when the evil overlord made a move, no one would be left alive. Since these people were still standing, it meant that the situation wasn't that serious. What's the background of this evil dominator? He actually made the general come out personally to welcome him. The few people who were guarding the door also hurriedly lowered their heads. They did not dare to look at Li Zongjio and the others. Just now, they were clamoring for them to enter through another door. However, in the blink of an eye, their general came out to welcome them personally. It did not matter if they were slapped in the face or not. It would not be a problem even if they lost a few teeth. If the general and the others knew that they had deliberately made things difficult for Li Zongjio and the others, they would definitely turn around and kill them with a knife. In short, they were very anxious now. Who are you? Li Zongjio glanced at the bearded guy and could not help but ask. He did not remember knowing the person in front of him. However, Li Zhongjiu also knew that after his reputation spread far and wide, there would be a lot of people who would come to visit him. He also had such troubles in his previous life. However, Li Zhongjiu did not like these people. Unless they came prepared with generous gifts, they would have to consider it carefully. I am Huang Weihu, Soldier City's Guard General. I did not know that Evil Lord and Supreme Flame would come. Please forgive me for not going out to meet you. Huang Weihu and the others lowered their waists even more. The battle results of these two men had already spread throughout the Black Canal Royal City. However, no one had expected the Evil Reverend and the Flame Reverend to be as young as they were rumored to be. They possessed such terrifying cultivation at such a young age. It was really admirable. How did they cultivate? Oh, then let's go in, Li Zhongjiu said. Since they had already come to open the door, there was nothing to say. There was no need to argue with a few cats and dogs guarding the door. Hearing that Li Zhongjiu didn't seem to have any intention of blaming them in front of Huang Weihu, these people who knelt down heaved a sigh of relief in their hearts. This made them feel a lot more relaxed. Wait a minute, Li Yan suddenly said. All of a sudden, these people were on tenterhooks. This lady should not speak carelessly. This could lead to death. Just now, these people took 10,000 gold coins from each of us to enter the city. Shouldn't they return it? Li Yan said. Even Wan Yulan widened her eyes. Li Yan's move was really similar to Li Zhongjiu's shadow. What? You bunch of blind things. Hurry up and hand over the money. Huang Weihu was furious when he heard these words. He directly kicked these people, knocking them to the ground as a punishment. At the same time, he ordered them to hand over the money. Although these people were gloomy in their hearts, this great aunt had clearly only given them 20 gold coins. Now, she was actually asking them for 20,000 gold coins. Lady, you're making a lot of money. However, these people did not dare to say anything. They hurriedly searched all over their bodies. Only then did they gather the 20,000 gold coins and respectfully handed it to Li Yan. She weighed the heavy money bag in her hand. Li Yan's face clearly showed a proud expression. The group of people followed Huang Weihu into the city. Although the people guarding the city gate had emptied their savings over the years, at least they were able to keep their lives. It was not until Li Zhongjiu and the others disappeared from their sight that these people finally breathed a sigh of relief. Oh my God, this is too scary. It's simply terrifying. How did we offend such a big shot for no reason? It's too scary. I almost lost my head. These people felt that they had used up all their strength and sat on the ground paralyzed. Their bodies were drenched in sweat. Knowing that you're coming to the 9 cities, we prepared early in the morning to welcome you. I didn't expect you to be so fast. You've arranged a lot of spies in the royal city, Wan Yulan said lightly. Huang Weihu also smiled slightly. For survival, to be honest, whether the 9 cities can exist or not depends on the mood of the higher-ups. You've seen through it, Wan Yulan said. Why are you still here when it's so chaotic? Li Yan asked. Huang Weihu could see that Li Zhongjiu and the King of Fire were relatively quiet. Or rather, they disdained to talk to people of their level. After all, they were supreme being experts. It was normal for them to have a little temper. Of course, Huang Weihu was also in the stage of smiling apologetically the whole time. After passing through the city gate, there was a passage that led to a group of buildings in front. There was also a city wall in front of them. Although the 9 cities appeared to be very chaotic, this place was unusually prosperous. Countless wealth flowed in this land. However, if one was seen carrying a large amount of money, it would depend on one's ability to walk out of this place safely. Huang Weihu was also considerate. He directly set up a table in his territory to welcome Li Zhongjiu and the others. At the same time, Huang Weihu was not sure about Li Zhongjiu's temperament, so he did not make a big fuss. After all, some experts also like to keep a low profile. Come, the chef of the Heavenly Fragrance restaurant. He used to be the head chef of the imperial kitchen in the palace. Later, he ran away to me after committing a crime. His culinary skills are very good. This 100 flowers wine is also very rare. Now there are less than 10 jars left in the 9 cities. Huang Weihu and his wife accompanied Li Zhongjiu and the others to eat. At the same time, he asked Li Zongjiu tentatively. I don't know why Evil Lord has come to the 9 cities this time. As long as it's something I can help with, just say the word. Huang Weihu said with a righteous face. Even if he had to go through water and tread on fire, he would not hesitate. To be able to talk to a supreme being expert and have a meal together. Just talking about it would be very honorable. General, the people of Tiandu City are attacking. Chapter 1101. While they were eating, one of Huang Weihu's men quickly came to report. The people of Tiandu City had attacked them. Immediately, Huang Weihu stood up angrily. Damn it, they actually dared to cause trouble at this time. It seems that I didn't teach them enough last time. Then, Huang Weihu also remembered that he had lost his composure in front of Li Zongjiu and the others. He quickly apologized. If you have something to do, go ahead and do it. We'll eat by ourselves. Li Zongjiu waved his hand and said. Immediately, Huang Weihu also cupped his hands. Then he quickly rushed outside with his men. This was a matter of life and death. It could be seen that they could not be careless at all. Li Zongjiu had long been accustomed to such things. After all, everyone was just trying to make a living. It was just that in such a place, the frequency of such things had increased a lot. It was not as much as the outside world. If there was something, it would be more efficient to do it directly. It was more intuitive. This was the characteristic of the 9 cities. They're going out to fight? Aren't they still eating? Li Yun could not help but say. They had not even eaten 2 mouthfuls of the meal, but they had already rushed out and were ready to fight. This really surprised Li Yun. This was a real experience. It was a bit too exaggerated. It's normal. This is because they obtained the information faster. Otherwise, they would have already killed their way to your table while you were still eating. Li Zongjiu said, King of Fire, your current title is not bad. Fire Supreme, what a domineering name. King of Fire gave Li Zongjiu a supercilious look. It did not matter what he was called. After all, King of Fire did not care about these things. Since we're already here, what's the next step? Wan Yulan said. It was indeed a little stressful to be with this group of masters. But if Wan Yulan wanted to break through, she had to deal with such strong masters. She didn't expect Li Zongjiu to give her any pointers. At the very least, he could stay by Li Zongjiu's side and learn something by himself. Let's wait first. This Huang Weihu is a pretty good person. When the time comes, we can just get his people to help us keep an eye out for news. Li Zongjiu said. Even if all the forces in the 9 cities joined forces, they would still be no match for Li Zongjiu. However, Li Zongjiu was not here to kill people. He was here to find treasures. Therefore, it was better to borrow as much power as possible. After all, getting things done was the most important thing. There were already sounds of swords and spears colliding outside. There were even some roars. It was obvious that some masters of elemental force were fighting. However, Li Zongjiu and the others in the Heavenly Fragrance restaurant were eating calmly. This was their stormy battlefield, so it was not a big deal to let them deal with it themselves. It was just a common occurrence for them. At this moment, Li Zongjiu and the others were looking for the appearance of the Demon Suppression Palace in the 9 cities. On a mountain peak hundreds of miles away from the Black Canal Royal City, there was no one within a radius of 10 miles, but the spiritual energy was extremely abundant. It seemed that a very precious spiritual treasure was born here. However, there was only one black palace on this mountain peak. This was the location of the sacred mountain of Black Canal Basilica. A red-robed archbishop, dressed in ordinary clothes, was running at high speed. He finally escaped the pursuit of the people from the Alliance. He came to the boundary of the sacred mountain. The people on the sacred mountain had long been indifferent to worldly affairs. They did not even care about power and such. Therefore, all of it was left to the people of Black Canal Basilica to manage, which was a group of bishops. However, this time it was really embarrassing. The entire territory of Black Canal Basilica was bombed beyond recognition. Furthermore, all the main combatants had been wiped out. At the same time, the sub-palaces in the major cities were basically destroyed overnight. This was clearly a premeditated attack. Even the headquarters in the royal city was destroyed. Naturally, the other places did not have so much power to resist. Therefore, these people chose to surrender one after another. Those who usually did all kinds of evil basically ran away overnight after receiving the news. It was hard to say whether it was righteous or not. However, as long as you won, you were definitely on the side of justice. History was written by the strong. At this moment, the Haika dynasty was in a state of rapid cleaning. There were flames of war everywhere. This bishop, who had escaped to the boundary of the sacred mountain with great difficulty, could be said to be in a very miserable state. It was a miracle that he was able to escape here alive. Even not far behind him, there were still pursuers from the alliance. This alliance was called the Black Extermination Alliance. This bishop finally escaped to the foot of the sacred mountain after going through untold hardships. Although the sacred mountain had already passed down an order, before that no matter what happened, no one was to disturb the cultivation of the Lord of the sacred mountain. But now it seemed that it was impossible not to disturb him. After all the foundations you've laid for the Black Canal Sacred Hall have been destroyed. Li Zhongjio, just you wait. All of you, just you wait. The unbounded land. Wu Mountain. During the battle with Li Zhongjio, Skywu did not expect Li Zhongjio to be able to use the soul-burning array. These 8 soul-burning pillars could be said to be priceless treasures. For this reason, he had specially brought a clone to guard it, who knew that Li Zhongjio would snatch it away by force. Skywu was not discouraged by the loss of the first battle. As for Li Zhongjio and King of Fire, they would die in his hands sooner or later. How many rank 6 meta beasts are there? Skywu returned to the Wu Mountain and gathered his subordinates. The method he was using now was to borrow the power of the myriad beasts to increase his strength. Master, there are a total of 463 meta beasts. Throw them all into the myriad beasts mound and continue to capture them. Yes, master. Myriad beasts mound. There was an extremely terrifying array in the myriad beasts mound. It was specially used to refine meta beasts. Once a meta beast was thrown into the array, it would be able to extract the beast's soul and power. Then, it would be guided into the array and absorbed by Skywu. Master, when we were searching, we found signs of a rank 7 meta beast in the Xingyan dynasty. It's still in its infancy. A man in black reported. Oh, a rank 7 meta beast in its infancy? Surprise flashed in Sky Shaman's eyes. Go and capture it for me. Since it was in its infancy, it was not a problem to send his subordinates to capture it. If he had to do everything himself, why did Skywu train so many subordinates? The reason why these people could possess the strength of an primitive emperor was because of Skywu. It was all because of Skywu's training. He used his own strength to train these people, allowing them to possess such strength in such a short period of time. Of course, it was also to train this batch of primitive emperor experts. There were more people who died on the way, because they could not withstand the pressure. Yes, master. Immediately, the man in black picked a few people. The rest were responsible for sending the rank 6 meta beasts that were trapped in the cages into the myriad beasts mound. The entire valley was filled with the painful and angry roars of the meta beasts. Facing the cruel oppression of the experts, they were like ants without any resistance. If they did not reach the peak, they would eventually be reduced to ants. Land of the 9 cities. Heavenly Fragrance Restaurant. It seemed that the people from Tiandu City came prepared. They actually brought their men to the Heavenly Fragrance Restaurant and saw that there were still people eating here safe and sound. Motherfucker, kill the men, leave the women for me. A one-eyed man rushed up and waved his hand. Immediately, a group of assassins with machetes rushed up. They looked exactly like bandits. Boom. There was a hole in the wall of the Heavenly Fragrance Restaurant. Then, more than 10 figures were blasted out of the hole. On the street below the Heavenly Fragrance Restaurant. At this moment, Huang Weihu and a dozen of his loyal subordinates were surrounded by the other party. Shameless bastard, old devil he, you actually betrayed me. Huang Weihu reprimanded. The person in the opposing camp, who was called Old Devil he, also laughed loudly. Yellow Tiger, you have been here for so many years. Don't you know that you should listen to whoever has the money? It's such a simple principle. Do you still need me to teach you? Give me 50 million now, and I will help you kill them. The person called Old Devil, he was the leader of another major force, Yin City. Unexpectedly, he had joined forces with the people from Tiandu City. Chapter 1102. Bang! 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 One-eyed dragon and the others, who had charged into the Heavenly Fragrance restaurant, were sent flying out. They fell to the ground. All of them were dead. One-eyed dragon, who was slightly stronger, pointed at the Heavenly Fragrance restaurant. He opened his mouth to say something, but blood poured out. Then he fainted. Who dares to touch the people of Yin City? Old man, he shouted at the top of the Heavenly Fragrance restaurant. On the other side, Pang Yuanliang, the general of Tiandu City, also looked up. His men were all mixed elemental steel spearmen. They were all a team of top experts. Go up and capture them. Now the two forces had joined forces. With the combined strength of these two generals, what was there to be afraid of? Immediately, these spearmen rushed up. Huang Weihu was also slightly surprised. At this moment, he was not sure what Li Zongjie meant. If the dignified evil dominator wanted to intervene in such a situation, it would be a very easy thing to do. However, although Huang Weihu wanted to be on good terms with the evil dominator, he had never thought of using Li Zongjie to deal with these people. Firstly, Li Zongjie might think that he was using him. Secondly, in this kind of place, he had to rely on his own strength. A series of movements were heard. The other party's men had already reached the top floor of the Heavenly Fragrance restaurant. After a while, another series of figures were sent flying out from the impact. Bang! 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 The spearmen who went up just now smashed onto the floor. They were all dead. Damn it, come out if you have the guts. Come out or I'll shoot you to death. Pang Yuanliang immediately shouted at the top of the Heavenly Fragrance restaurant. At this moment, the street was surrounded by at least 1,000 people. Even under such circumstances, there were still people who dared to resist. Did they not know that their boss, even Huang Weihu, could not escape death? After Pang Yuanliang finished speaking, Li Zongjie and the others appeared from the Heavenly Fragrance restaurant. With a leap they landed among these people. Pang Yuanliang and Old Man, he were shocked as well. However, they maintained their composure on the surface. They did not lose their footing because of this. The young man in front of him had an extraordinary bearing, and he didn't look simple at all. Just now, it was this young man who had directly defeated his elite troops. These 20+ people were the best of the best. Who are you? Yellow Tiger, I didn't expect you to have hired help. When Huang Weihu saw Li Zongjie appear, he hurriedly supported his heavily injured body and said to Li Zongjie, I didn't expect to disturb Lord Evil Lord's mood. Seeing that Li Zongjie did not express any opinion, Huang Weihu also looked at the person opposite him. Hurry up and scram. Huang Weihu shouted angrily, This is Evil Lord. You can't afford to offend him. Hurry up and apologize, then scram. Evil Lord? Yellow Tiger, is there something wrong with your brain? You found such a godlike person to pretend to be ignorant. Do you really think that I, Old Man he, am easily frightened? Old Man he obviously didn't believe Huang Weihu's words. Evil Lord, did he think that this was a child's play? Who are your men? Li Zongjie glanced around and said to Huang Weihu. Huang Weihu was stunned. He didn't understand what Li Zongjie meant, but he still pointed at the people around him. Now only the people around him were his own people. He didn't expect this battle to be so tragic. Even if some of his subordinates were still alive, they didn't dare to get close. What are you doing? Are you trying to scare us? Old Man he suddenly said. Just as Old Man he's voice fell, Li Zongjie snapped his fingers in front of everyone. Ta! With a crisp sound, a wave of energy immediately spread out in all directions. Boom! Immediately, this wave of energy directly wiped out the people in front of them. The group of people in front of them didn't have any power to resist at all. They were directly shattered by this wave of energy. The entire street instantly quieted down. Huang Weihu and the others couldn't believe their eyes. In an instant these people were all killed. There was no obstruction at all. The enemies on the entire street were all killed. Such a fantastic scene, for Huang Weihu was like a dream. They're all dead. Huang Weihu and the others looked around and found that all the enemies around them were all dead. Only their own people were fine. This kind of magical power, only Evil Lord could do it. General, are you all okay? General, we're too late. As soon as Huang Weihu got out of trouble, some of his loyal subordinates quickly rushed out. Obviously, they had seen the situation just now. However, they were at a disadvantage at that time, so they didn't dare to appear at all. Now that all the enemies were dead, why didn't they come out to attack? What were they waiting for? It's okay. Let's take this opportunity to fight back. Huang Weihu also made a prompt decision. This kind of thing didn't happen often. There must be a reason. Otherwise, these two people were sworn enemies, so there was no reason for them to join forces. You're still going to fight back? You're really going all out. Li Zongjiu glanced at Huang Weihu in front of him. He was really going all out. Sir, you don't know. This kind of opportunity is fleeting. Sir, please wait for a while. When I come back, I'll thank you again. Immediately, Huang Weihu didn't care at all. He led a group of people into the territory of these people. Li Zongjiu naturally didn't understand. Around dusk, Huang Weihu and the others returned in triumph. This time, most of the main force had died at the hands of Li Zongjiu. Therefore, the remaining people couldn't resist the counterattack of Huang Weihu and the others at all. That night, Huang Weihu's face was also filled with excitement. He dragged his body full of wounds back to the Heavenly Fragrance restaurant. This time, he was able to return in triumph because of Li Zongjiu's actions. He killed the two generals and so many elite subordinates. In addition, his sudden counterattack was very timely. It also caused many people to completely give up resistance. After a simple dressing and cleaning, he went to look for Li Zongjiu. This was a true benefactor, and a true benefactor. If it weren't for Li Zongjiu, Huang Weihu would have died today. Evil Lord, I didn't expect something like this to happen today. If it weren't for Evil Lord, I, Huang Weihu, wouldn't be standing here at this moment. This is a small token of my appreciation. Please accept it. After this battle, Huang Weihu also specially searched for the treasures collected by these people. Li Zongjiu saw it and smiled slightly, then accepted it. We're all friends. There's no need to be so polite. Seeing that Li Zongjiu had accepted his gift, Huang Weihu breathed a sigh of relief in his heart. At the same time, he smiled happily. It turned out that Li Zongjiu liked this. By the way, Evil Lord, there's something I need to tell you. The reason why these two groups of people dared to sneak attack me today was because of the interference of a mysterious force. Huang Weihu told him his investigation. This matter couldn't be underestimated. Chapter 1103. Mysterious Force? What kind of force is that? Li Zongjiu asked. What kind of information was that? The land of the 9 cities usually doesn't accept the intervention of external forces, unless, Huang Weihu said in a deep voice. Unless you can't refuse. Wan Yulan added from the side. The land of the 9 cities has a special attribute. It's different from other places. The people here have a strong sense of self-respect. That's right. Miss Wan is right. Therefore, the strength of this group of people is definitely not simple. Huang Weihu said with certainty. Today was a freak combination of factors. If Li Zongjiu and the others didn't come, their soldier city would have been swallowed up without leaving a corpse. However, now that things had taken a turn, Huang Weihu had gained a great advantage. However, this advantage seemed to be very difficult to gain. There was still a lot of trouble waiting for him in the future. If that's the case, there shouldn't be many forces of this level. We can find out after a little investigation. Li Yan said. Sir, don't worry. Within 2 days, we will find out everything about them. Huang Weihu had just absorbed the forces and resources of the 2 big cities. Of course, he had to organize them. After telling Li Zongjiu the news, he left directly. If it's just a fight in the land of the 9 cities, there's no need for the outside world to get involved. Getting involved here will only bring unnecessary trouble. After Huang Weihu left, Wan Yulan also analyzed the situation at hand. The only reason why people from the outside world would come and take action is because of the Demon Suppression Palace ruins. Wan Yulan's habitual way of thinking was to analyze the situation clearly first. Then she would summarize and come up with a plan at the end. In the end, she saw Li Zongjiu stand up directly. Who cares about their background? Let's go and see. Li Zongjie was straightforward. Li Zongjie wouldn't care if they were just having fun in the 9 cities. But if they were here to make trouble for Li Zongjie and rob the relics, they couldn't blame Li Zongjie. It was normal to be cruel and merciless. Would he sit down and chat with them? Should we inform Master? Li Yun seemed a little excited. Every time something like this happened, the most excited person would be Li Yun. She just loved to join in the fun. All of you stay here. I'll go alone. Immediately, Li Zongjie's figure flashed and disappeared from the spot. Hey! Li Yun and Wan Yulan both watched Li Zongjie disappear. The latter's speed was too fast for them to keep up. They could only watch Li Zongjie disappear in front of their eyes. Huang Weihu was dealing with the matters under his hand. He was planning for the territory that he had just conquered. Suddenly, he saw a figure appear in the living room. Who is it? Huang Weihu could only vaguely see a figure. When the person walked closer, he saw clearly that it was Evil Lord. Evil Lord didn't go through the front door when he had something to do. Instead, he liked to come directly to other people's study. Evil Lord, I'm sending people to investigate. There's no need for that. Take me there. Li Zongjie said. Go where? Huang Weihu was stunned. He didn't understand Li Zongjie's meaning. Let's go and see the leaders of the other forces. Huang Weihu prepared 2 fast horses. He didn't even bring a guard. Originally, he wanted to bring them, but after thinking about it carefully, he realized that they wouldn't be of much use. The land of the 9 cities was mostly mountainous areas. Some places were at high places. After turning a corner, they might reach the lowest point. There were people living on top and bottom. It wasn't a stable place. After rushing down a few slopes, they entered the territory of the South City. When the South City army saw Huang Weihu and a young man, they were shocked. What's going on? One must know that these big shots usually wouldn't leave their territory. They could be assassinated at any time. Therefore, they needed to be very careful. Even if they wanted to go out, they had to be prepared in advance and bring a large number of people with them. Stop. Don't move. Huang Weihu and Li Zongjie reined in their horses and stopped. Ask your old man Su to come out. Tell him that I, Huang Weihu, am looking for him. Huang Weihu shouted. Today, the news of Huang Weihu destroying the 2 strongholds had spread throughout the 9 cities. Therefore today, Huang Weihu's name was very famous. Immediately, the tone of the South City army in front of him relaxed a little. The general has ordered that now is the night curfew period. No one is allowed to enter or leave, the leader of the squadron said. But since General Huang is here, I will go and report it. The squadron leader immediately made a hand gesture. His subordinates immediately went to report this matter to him. Huang Weihu glanced at Li Zongjie. Since Li Zongjie didn't have any objections, then they would wait for the time being. While waiting, the people in front of him were also in a state of high alert. One must know that this fierce man in front of them had just destroyed the 2 strongholds this morning. Although the South City stronghold wasn't afraid, they still had to be vigilant. Maybe Huang Weihu was waiting for an opportunity to sneak attack them. In the dark night, they could see that the other party was also constantly deploying manpower. However, Huang Weihu wasn't nervous at all. Instead, he felt very happy. At this moment, even if he was facing thousands of soldiers and horses, it could be said that he wasn't afraid at all, because there was a supreme expert by his side. Therefore, no matter how many people came, he wasn't worried at all. He wanted to see what kind of expression Su Chun had on his face. Su Chun was the general of the South City stronghold. A series of torches suddenly lit up in the dark street in front of them. When the torches were strung together, it looked like a long dragon was approaching. Haha, General Huang, what brings you here? Su Chun's vigorous and powerful voice came from afar. The sentries in front of him all felt nervous. Although Huang Weihu and this inconspicuous young man were only 2 people here, they didn't know why they felt an extremely terrifying pressure hanging over their heads. They didn't dare to relax at all. It seemed that the person in front of them was equivalent to the confrontation of thousands of soldiers and horses. Old Man Su, you must have heard about what happened today. Pang Yuanliang, an old man, he actually joined forces to deal with me. I'm here to ask for your opinion on this matter," Huang Weihu said. Su Chen's heart sank when he heard this. Although he showed up, he didn't put himself in danger. Instead, under the protection of many guards, he was talking to Huang Weihu. When he spoke, he was also staring at the young man, riding a horse beside Huang Weihu. Li Zhongjiu's gaze also fell on the 4 people wearing bamboo hats and black clothes beside Su Chen. Chapter 1104. As Li Zhongjiu's gaze fell on them, the people who had been hiding their auras became a little nervous. "Where did the 4 of you come from?" Li Zhongjiu asked directly. He didn't beat around the bush, and directly pointed at the 4 people beside Su Chen. Su Chen immediately looked at Li Zhongjiu in surprise. Obviously, it confirmed Li Zhongjiu's opinion, and guessed that these people were indeed not from the 9 cities. Huang Weihu naturally didn't dare to interrupt. However, Su Chen naturally didn't dare to order the 4 big shots around him to say anything. "You and I have minded our own business. Why are you so aggressive?" One of the people wearing a hat spoke, but the 4 of them didn't do anything. Obviously they were on guard. If Li Zhongjiu made a move, it would be extremely fierce, so they needed to be on guard. "You don't have the final say. Take advantage of the fact that I don't want to make a move now. Either you tell me the truth or get lost immediately. I can let you go," Li Zhongjiu said indifferently. When Su Chen heard this, he was extremely shocked. Others didn't know the origin of these big shots, but he knew very well that these 4 people's identities were extremely complicated. They just liked to keep a low profile, so they hid their identities. If their true identities were exposed, it would cause a sensation. "Li Zhongjiu, you think too highly of yourself." Li Zhongjiu's words just now had touched their bottom line. Thus these people no longer hid themselves. They immediately flung their cloaks aside, revealing the neat sect attire underneath. When people saw the symbol of a hammer on the attire, they all sucked in a breath of cold air. They released their aura. Even the warhorse that Huang Weihu was sitting on was frightened, and took 2 steps back. Haotian sect. Huang Weihu's eyes widened. They knew that someone was behind this. However, they did not expect the Supreme Sky sect to be the one controlling the situation. The 4 members of the Haotian sect felt wronged as well. This time, the people of the Haotian sect had finally come to a decision. Within the sect, an expert had divined that the ruins of the Demon Suppression Palace would appear in the 9 cities. Hence, the Haotian sect had also sent people to secretly infiltrate this place. The purpose was to control the situation here as soon as possible. As long as these people were under control, the news would be completely blocked. Even if they had the opportunity to enter the Devil's Suppression Palace ruins first, those who came later could only eat the leftovers. Or rather, eat the leftovers. Who knew that after Li Zhongjiu arrived, he would be so aggressive? Moreover, from the very beginning, he had directly ruined their plans. He was simply forcing his way in and causing trouble. Now, he even wanted to obstruct the Haotian sect's plan. Since he was so arrogant, there was no need to be polite with him. After revealing their identities, 2 of them looked slightly younger, about 25 or 26 years old. However, the arrogance on their faces did not diminish at all. They stretched their bodies, and at the same time, looked at Li Zhongjiu in front of them with a provocative look. "Third uncle, I've already told you not to talk nonsense with this kind of brainless person. Destroying his origin beads by beating him up is more effective than talking 10,000 words. Yeah, who dares to say a word about the Haotian sect's business?" The person in front of them also revealed a fierce look, and even prepared to attack. Those who belonged to the South City Army were also shocked. Unexpectedly, people from the Haotian sect had come to their place, and even stood on their side. This guy in front of them was definitely going to die. Almost everyone knew the strength of the Haotian sect. Although it was equivalent to a hidden sect, the Haotian sect had gradually expanded its influence. Moreover, there were many legendary achievements. Therefore, the Haotian sect's reputation was quite good in the Heike dynasty. However, the Haotian sect had no way to open up channels and expand its influence in the Shengyan dynasty. However, it was precisely because the Shengyan dynasty had just been established that it needed to stabilize its strength. After the internal situation was unified, it would accept some new forces into the Xingyan dynasty. However, in the current situation of the 9 cities, these people from the Haoyan sect were still arrogantly releasing their influence, thinking that they were still the arrogant overlord sect that everyone had to give way to. If Huang Weihu was here today, he would probably admit defeat without saying a word. It was even possible that he would kneel down and beg for mercy. However, today's situation was a bit special. There was another person here. Li Zongjiu glanced at the 2 young people in front of him, and then picked up the hammer in his hand. As soon as they saw Li Zongjiu pick up the hammer, the 2 young people from the Haoyan sect finally couldn't hold back anymore. Before they went down the mountain this time, their master had clearly told them not to fight unless it was absolutely necessary. Now that the Haoyan sect's prestige had been established, if they acted recklessly, it would damage their prestige. This was something that couldn't be easily violated. They had to subdue the enemy without fighting. This was the most domineering behavior. Now that Li Zongjiu had already revealed his weapon, they naturally couldn't sit still and wait for death. Moreover, they had a very good reason to beat Li Zongjiu up first. "You're courting death." Immediately, the 2 young people directly raised their swords. However, their swords were only half drawn when Li Zongjiu's hammer had already smashed on their heads. This time, Li Zongjiu was merciful and didn't directly take their lives. Instead, a bolt of lightning instantly penetrated their bodies. Bang bang! Their origin pearls instantly shattered. The expression on their faces was incomparably painful. They didn't know whether they should cover their heads or their stomachs. They directly fell to the ground. Their bodies were still twitching non-stop, as if they were 2 people who were sick. "How dare you?" The 3rd martial uncle was shocked and angry. Immediately, he also circulated his origin energy. With the strength of a 2nd stage origin emperor, he dared to display his slight skill in front of Li Zongjiu. The other person also only had the strength of a 2nd stage origin emperor. He was directly sent flying by Li Zongjiu's 2 kicks. Bang bang! 2 figures fell to the ground. "I won't kill you today because I want you to go back and pass a message. Don't come near the 9 cities for 3 months. Otherwise, I, evil lord, will kill whoever comes." Li Zongjiu's tone and attitude were very sincere. It sounded like a request, but it was a blatant threat. Threatening the Haoyan sect? Only the evil dominator would do something like that. Chapter 1105. The 3rd martial uncle from the Haoyan sect collapsed to the ground. He had never thought that he, who was so high and mighty, would one day be reduced to such a state and be smashed to the ground by someone with a hammer. At this moment, he could only feel the eyes of the people around him converging on him. There was a feeling of extreme shame. This was simply the greatest insult to him. However, Li Zongjiu's words were like steel whips that lashed his body. In the end, the people of the Haoyan sect also stood up silently. The 3rd martial uncle glared fiercely at Li Zongjiu. Then he clutched his injured stomach and directly left the place. However, the 2 crippled young men from the Clear Sky sect were left where they stood. Obviously, the 2 of them had been crippled, and their elemental pearls were destroyed. Even if they were saved, it would be of no use. They might as well just leave them here. Even the people of the Haoyan sect fled. Su Chen of the South City Army was filled with shock. The people of the Haoyan sect had directly appeared in front of the show table and asked the South City Army to unify the entire 9 cities. They wanted to incorporate the other areas into their forces and unify them. Such a thing was naturally very difficult. However, with the intervention of the people of the Haoyan sect, it was naturally different. However, just as they were halfway through the discussion, this evil dominator appeared and killed them without saying a word. Just now, he even threatened to help them unify the 9 cities. In the blink of an eye, he was chased away. Su Chen did not know what to say about the speed at which he was slapped in the face. He could only take a deep breath. Their fate would depend on the mood of the evil lord. If the evil lord Li Zongjiu wanted to support Huang Weihu, then he would have to give up his territory easily, regardless of whether the Haoyan sect would seek revenge on Li Zongjiu or not. First of all, they could not stop Li Zongjiu from making a move. If Li Zongjiu was in a bad mood, he would directly cripple them. At that time, they would lose their territory and their lives. They did not know how Huang Weihu was so lucky to be able to get the help of the evil lord. Su Chen did not recognize Mount Tai. "Greetings, evil lord." Su Chen half-knelt and saluted Li Zongjio. Many of the generals around him also knelt down on one knee. "Capture those two people and properly torture them. However, do not kill them. Let them properly experience the wonders of this world." Li Zongjio said indifferently. "Revenge for the smallest grievance." Generally speaking, if Li Zongjio wanted to make a fuss about something, then you should be prepared to die. Li Zongjio did not have the time to deal with these two good-for-nothings. However, with just a few words, he could send people to do these things. Why not? Tomorrow at noon, ask the leaders of the other regions to come for a meeting. It's up to them whether they want to bring people or not. If I don't see them, I will go and find them myself, Li Zongjio ordered. Su Chen hurriedly replied when he heard Li Zongjio's words. "Don't worry, evil lord. This subordinate will definitely inform them." After that, Li Zongjio and Huang Weihu turned their horses around and left. After Li Zongjio left, Su Chen finally breathed a sigh of relief. Unknowingly, he was already sweating profusely. It could be said that he was really sweating profusely. If there was even the slightest mistake in serving someone as strong as Li Zongjio, it would be a disaster for him. Fortunately, Li Zongjio did not seem to be interested in their turf wars. Or perhaps he just wanted to enjoy being an elite? They didn't know if tomorrow's meeting would be a hangmen banquet. But with Li Zongjio's strength, it would be easy for him to deal with them. "General, do you want to talk to the leaders of the other regions? Let's join forces. Otherwise, tomorrow will be a disaster," Su Chen's subordinate reminded him. This subordinate was a very loyal one. In such a place, if one didn't have a trusted subordinate, then he was basically a useless person. Of course, he couldn't completely trust him. It was up to him to choose what to do. "Stupid," Su Chen scolded angrily. The two people who were defeated were at the peak of the Yuan monarch realm. They were one step away from the Yuan emperor realm. The two of them were crippled in an instant. "Can't you see evil lord's strength clearly?" Su Chen immediately said directly. Clearly, this evil dominator's strength was extremely terrifying. Even if all the people in the 9 cities were added together, they would not be enough to kill evil lord. "I heard that evil lord and an elite called Supreme Flame easily destroyed Black Canal Basilica. I have seen the strength of evil lord. I wonder if Supreme Flame, who is even stronger, will also come here. Strange, what are these top experts doing here?" Su Chen was obviously more farsighted. Since he could no longer control his own life and death, he might as well find out why he was in such a situation. The Haotian sect in the real world, and now this evil lord. Could it be that the 9 cities is related to the Demon Suppression Palace? When he thought of this, Su Chen took a deep breath. If this was the case, then this matter was of great importance. The stability of the 9 cities would definitely be constantly interfered with by external forces. In the end, this layer of peace would also be broken. The situation might become very chaotic. First of all, if these top experts came, they would definitely not be able to stop them. It was no wonder that Evil Lord was so anxious to summon them for a meeting. He wanted to assign tasks and take over the 9 cities. General? Su Chen's subordinate saw that his eyes were glazed over and emitted light from time to time. He thought that his general had lost his mind or suffered a great blow, so he quickly woke him up. Su Chen woke up. "All right, hurry up and inform those people. As long as they are in place, it's up to them whether they come or not. It's best if they don't come." Immediately, Su Chen sneered. If at this time, he could see that his old rival of many years was eliminated, he would be very happy in his heart. When the time came, if they didn't come and directly angered Evil Lord, he would kill the remaining 4 people with a wave of his hand. That would be really satisfying. What about these 2 people? After all, these 2 people were disciples of the Clear Sky sect. Although their elder had escaped a little faster, it was hard to say if these people had reacted a little later and wanted to take them away. In the end, someone would stand up for them. It was just that they didn't know when that person would come back. Search them clean and lock them in the ant prison. Just make sure they don't die. Ant prison. Upon hearing this name, these subordinates trembled and felt their scalps tingle. However, when they thought of how arrogant these two people were when they were with them, locking them in the ant prison was also a kind of behavior that made them happy. Yes, General. Chapter 1106. In the Shungyan dynasty, a group of black-clothed men hurriedly landed on a mountain peak. Mount Xianhuang. This was Mount Xianhuang, the place where a few major incidents had occurred. Qi Yanran of the Qi family was overseeing this place, managing the matters of the Mount Xianhuang, or vein, in an orderly manner. Whirlwind Stockade had originally wanted to interfere and extort a large sum of money, but after the other 6 stockades were easily destroyed, they became very well behaved. At the same time, under the threat of Li Zongjiu, they obediently carried out their current guarding duties. However, the Qi family's reputation and Whirlwind Stockades overseeing this place became very peaceful. Immediately, Mount Xianhuang fell into a state of complete calmness. No one dared to cause trouble. That night, a cold wind suddenly blew. It happened to be the time when a batch of, or was being transported. And today, a large amount of black-yellow essence crystals had been mined. The value of the black-yellow essence crystals alone was equivalent to the amount of black-yellow essence stones mined for nearly half a month. Therefore, Qi Yanran was personally escorting the ore. Yes, that direction is Whirlwind Stockade. Qi Yanran and the others were in the forest, escorting the ore carts. These ore carts were pulled by ground service beasts. These ground service beasts were not even rank 1 meta beasts. They were a kind of hybrid meta beast with good endurance and strength. Suddenly, a flame lit up in front of them. They could faintly hear the sound of fighting, but soon, it was drowned in the sea of trees. The ground service beasts in front of them suddenly lay on the ground, not daring to get up, as if they were afraid of something. Everyone be careful, Qi Yanran ordered. Immediately, the Qi family's guards pulled out the sabers at their waists. Under the moonlight, the shiny sabers looked cold and threatening. Then, Qi Yanran looked up at the forest in front of her. 2 figures hovered above the shadow of a tree, staring at Qi Yanran. Pay attention to defense. Although Qi Yanran's cultivation had recently made a breakthrough, she still felt threatened when she sensed the threat from the 2 people in front of her. But with a divine weapon like the Desolate Heaven Essence in her hand, she was naturally not afraid. Who is it? Qi Yanran snorted coldly. The 2 people opposite her did not say anything. They looked at each other directly. After confirming the target, they rushed toward Qi Yanran. Boom! The power of the 2 instantly erupted. There seemed to be a giant beast roaring above the sea of trees, and the surrounding power instantly exploded. Boom! A terrifying power spread out in all directions. Immediately, Qi Yanran's expression became extremely solemn. 2 auras rushed toward her like 2 mountains. Boom! Boom! The Desolate Heaven Essence in Qi Yanran's hands was specifically used to break through mountains. The Desolate Heaven Essence transformed into a white beam of light that swirled out and instantly shattered the barrier. However, the 2 men had already rushed in front of Qi Yanran and tried to grab her. Whoosh! Bang! Qi Yanran relied on the Desolate Heaven Essence to tangle with the 2 of them, but she realized that the 2 people in front of her were extremely powerful. They were much more terrifying than she had expected. Desolate Heaven Lock. He activated the Desolate Heaven Essence with his Yuan Qi. Immediately, a surge of energy surged out of the Desolate Heaven Essence and swept towards the 2 figures. Pa! One of them managed to dodge in time, but the other was not so lucky. He was wrapped up by the Desolate Heaven Essence, and almost instantly, it shrunk to an extreme, crushing the black-robed man's body. The essence of this move was to concentrate the power of the Desolate Heaven Essence in a small area, and then compress it, easily crushing the people in the gap. Bang! When he saw his companion explode into pieces in midair, the black-clothed man seemed extremely calm. He continued to calmly attack Qi Yanran. At the same time, he seized a very good opportunity. Taking advantage of the fact that Qi Yanran had yet to recover her strength, he suddenly closed in and slapped at Qi Yanran's head. Although Qi Yanran saw the other party's move, she was too late to block it. The black-clothed man opposite her curled his lips into a cold smile. This smile seemed to imply that he had completed his mission. Qi Yinran had no way of avoiding this palm. So, a beam of light directly pierced through the black-clothed man's head. Instantly, the black-clothed man's strength disappeared. The black-clothed man's head could be said to have exploded in an instant. He naturally lost control of the power in his body at this moment. Qi Yinran's figure retreated, just in time to avoid this move. Immediately, Qi Yinran heaved a sigh of relief. A blue bird flapped its wings and calmly landed on Qi Yinran's shoulder. It used its beak to comb its feathers until the feathers on its body were clean. Fortunately, I have you, Xuelan. Qi Yinran stroked the bird's head. This bird was the mountain auk that Li Zhongjiu had given to Qi Yinran previously. In less than half a month, the mountain seagull had already begun to take shape. With its current size, it was clear that it had eaten a lot of good things in the past few days. All of them were high-grade pills that were specially cultivated. It could be said that the mountain seagull ate better than the food that humans eat. Xuelan was the name that Qi Yinran gave to the mountain auk. These two masters were of unknown origin and were very powerful. Most importantly, they did not know the origin of each other at all. They actually attacked directly, which made Qi Yinran have a faint premonition in her heart. Obviously, they are from the same organization. The way they fight is very similar. And after their deaths, it seems that their energy has been transferred. Qi Yinran had the original spirit of the longevity tree, so she had a very clear understanding of the power of life. Although these people were dead, their power had flown directly to an unknown place. All things had the same origin. According to common sense, the energy of these people should return to heaven and earth. However, the power of the two people in front of her was flowing in the same direction. When the motorcade below saw that Qi Yinran had killed the two masters of the other side alone, they all laughed at those who tried to fight with the eldest Mississippi. The eldest Miss's strength could be said to be unrivaled among her peers. Of course, with the exception of a freak like Li Zhongjiu, it was really difficult for other people of the same age to catch up with the eldest Mississippi. These people wanted to rob her. They were simply digging their own graves. All of you, quickly take the things away. The only thing that Qi Yinran could think of now was that someone had received the news and wanted to fight for the mysterious yellow crystal in her hands. Buzz. After giving her instructions, Qi Yinran's brows furrowed slightly. When she turned around, she saw three figures appear in front of her. They were dressed exactly the same as the two people who were killed just now. The three people's eyes met and fell on Qi Yinran. To be precise, they were looking at the mountain auk on Qi Yinran's shoulder, Xuelan. Chapter 1107. The three figures that appeared next were obviously stronger. Qi Yinran did not dare to be too careless. However, there was no need to ask about the background of the people in front of her. Boom! The three of them attacked at the same time. A terrifying force that covered the sky and earth struck towards Qi Yinran. The force seemed to intertwine to form a giant net. Qi Yinran was caught in it. Qi Yinran could not avoid it. She used the desolate heaven essence to forcefully split open the opponent's force net. At the same time, she leaped up and rushed towards the distance. At the very least, she could not control the battlefield here. Otherwise, a little bit of the force that spread out could easily kill the people of the Qi family below. The three people in front of her were also in the primitive emperor realm. At the same time, their target was extremely clear. They did not care about the things around them and directly chased after Qi Yinran. Boom! Boom! Four figures instantly swept across the sea of trees above the forest. The terrifying force that was set off alarmed the origin beasts in Mount Xianhuang. They fled in all directions in a disorderly manner. The black-robed man, who was chasing behind her, was constantly releasing his origin force. Balls of origin force bombarded out. After Qi Yinran dodged them, she landed on the ground and blasted the soil nearly 100 meters high. Such a strong vibration almost destroyed Mount Xianhuang. Fortunately, Mount Xianhuang's area was not small. The potholes were nothing to it. Suddenly, a origin force was about to hit Qi Yinran. The desolate heaven essence in Qi Yinran's hand immediately rolled out easily. Pa! Pung! Qi Yanran was still hit. Her figure immediately fell from the sky. After all, Qi Yanran's origin force cultivation was only at the 8th grade origin king realm. She had not truly stepped into the primitive emperor realm. In terms of maintenance, she was completely inferior to the real primitive emperor experts behind her. Moreover, the strength and realm of these people belonged to a relatively high level among the primitive emperors. A figure landed and threw a punch at Qi Yanran. The domineering and terrifying force seemed to destroy everything. Pung! The desolate heaven essence automatically protected its owner, but it was directly sent flying. He waved his fist again and hit Qi Yanran. At this moment, the mountain ocean sparrow dashed towards the black-clothed man. However, the black-clothed man was obviously prepared. After all, the mountain ocean sparrow was a supreme-level meta-beast. Although its strength had yet to mature, its potential was not to be underestimated. It was not something an ordinary meta-beast could compare with. Bang! The black-clothed man blocked the attack, but the seagull didn't fare any better. Instead, the black-clothed man's blocking hand was directly broken by the seagull. Qi Yanran leaped up in an attempt to pick up the desolate heaven essence. However, the two black-clothed men who had been observing from outside the battle circle finally made their move. One of them sent Qi Yanran flying with a palm strike, while the other grabbed the desolate heaven essence in his hand. When the desolate heaven essence was grabbed in his hand, it produced a resisting force. In an instant, a terrifying force burst out, blowing off the black-clothed man's hand. The desolate heaven essence also quickly swept towards Qi Yanran, transforming into a beam of light that protected her. This was the desolate heaven essence's protective mode. After it was activated, it would form an absolute defensive zone. Xuelan was fighting with a black-clothed man. However, Xuelan lacked combat experience and was quickly injured. Seeing this, Qi Yanran saw the other two men rushing towards Xuelan. She knew that their target was Xuelan. Immediately, Qi Yanran forcibly removed the desolate heaven essence's defensive mode. Xuelan Mountain Ocean Rainstorm Escape. Qi Yanran and Xuelan were telepathically connected. Hence, Qi Yanran knew all the moves that Xuelan knew. Clearly, Xuelan was in a daze and only had ordinary combat instincts. However, Qi Yanran, who was in a calm state, could think of a way to deal with it and how to best use this technique. Immediately, the mountain ocean sparrow did not hesitate to let out a long cry. Immediately, the entire forest was filled with wind and rain. Strong winds blew. A sudden downpour came. Boom! The surrounding mountains, rivers, and plants seemed to be constantly changing. The three black-clothed men were trapped in their spots by this force. Not good. In the next moment, the force of the storm blew the three of them away. At the same time, the strong wind and rain also slowly disappeared. It was as if the previous scene was just an illusion. When they looked at the person in front of them, she had disappeared. She escaped. The three of them exchanged glances. What happened just now was the mountain ocean sparrow using this escape technique. It was only a blink of an eye, but they did not know where she was brought to. The three black-clothed men immediately joined forces. They spread out their mental strength and covered their surroundings. They could see everything within a 10,000-mile radius. However, they did not sense the aura of the woman and the supreme-level meta-beast. She escaped. They had lost 2 people on this mission. Furthermore, they did not achieve any effective results. Continue to investigate. If they returned like this, they would definitely be punished by their master. Hence, they had to find news of the supreme-level meta-beast. Otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable. Immediately, the 3 of them scattered on the spot. Although they couldn't find any traces of the supreme primordial beast within a radius of 10,000 miles, it was impossible for the supreme primordial beast to travel through space with this skill. It would always appear in the same place. They would definitely find something if they expanded their search area. The captain of the Qi family's guards was Qi Zhen. Today, the young mistress had encountered a strong enemy and disappeared without a trace. Such a huge incident had shocked Qi Zhen. The young mistress had gone missing. This matter must be reported to the family head secretly. Qi Zhen immediately arranged for the carts to transport the goods to the city and complete the handover. After which, he personally went to the Sacred Flame Royal City and reported everything he had seen today to Qi Xiaohun. When Qi Xiaohun heard the news, his expression was extremely solemn. "Remember to keep this matter a secret. Did you bring back the corpses of the two?" Qi Xiaohun asked. "The corpses of the two turned into nothingness in less than half an instance's time. This is a finger that I chopped off before I disappeared," Qizhen said. Qizhen was also very experienced. He placed the finger in a box that was sealed with yuan qi. Usually, people who roamed the underworld would prepare such a thing. In fact, it was just a kind of isolation rune. It could isolate some aura and prevent the yuan qi of the item from being emitted. "Alright, you've done well. I'll issue a secret order to summon Yanran back. I'll make a trip to the White Deer residence." To be able to force Qi Yanran into such a situation, the opponent's strength was obviously not simple. Even the current Qi family could not deal with it. When such a thing happened, they could only ask for Li Zongjiu's help. However, Li Zongjiu seemed to have some matters to attend to recently, and rarely appeared in the royal city. Qi Yanran opened her eyes and got up. In front of her was a peaceful lake. The ripples were rugged and rippled. It was so bright that Qi Yanran could not open her eyes. Qi Yanran raised her head and saw the sunlight in the sky. She was shocked and broke out in cold sweat. This is not the Holy Martial Continent. Chapter 1108. Xuelan. Qi Yanran called out softly. She couldn't find any trace of Xuelan, but she could feel the connection between her and Xuelan. However, the connection was blocked, and she couldn't summon Xuelan to her side. Divine Sparrow Realm? When Qi Yanran walked to the lakeside, she found a stone tablet erected by the lakeside. The words written on the stone tablet were precisely these three words. When Qi Yanran's gaze was completely focused on the tablet, suddenly, a suction force was released from the stone tablet and instantly sucked Qi Yanran in. There was no time for her to react. The surroundings returned to calmness. Haika Dynasty, Old Land of the Nine Cities. Li Zongjiu stood in front of the window and stared out. His mood was unstable tonight, and he couldn't enter the state of cultivation. He thought that something must have happened. However, Li Zongjiu sensed that what happened could be good or bad. This made Li Zongjiu very confused. He didn't know what was going on. However, he was about to enter the Demon Suppression Palace. Perhaps this vigilance came from the Demon Suppression Palace. The dangerous situation of this trip was unknown. Wu Tian's people, Haotian sect's people, and some people from Tianyan dynasty's people. The gathering of experts from all sides was definitely not simple. Therefore, Li Zongjiu wanted to seize the opportunity. Obtaining the unparalleled sword and the demon suppression seal is enough to deal with the future. Li Zongjiu thought in his heart. He turned and sat back on the bed and began to adjust his aura. Tonight was destined to be a sleepless night. Let's talk about the 9 cities first. The leaders of the other 5 regions also received a message from Su Chen. The content of the message was very simple. Evil Lord invited everyone to have a meeting tomorrow at noon in the territory of Soldier City. If you don't come, you'll have to bear the consequences. With just these 2 simple sentences, the 5 of them were prepared for different things. Some didn't even care about this evil lord. You're an evil overlord in the outside world. You've killed a lot of people, but you'll have to tuck your tail between your legs when you're in the 9 cities. Everyone in the 9 cities kills people like flies. They don't even spit out the bones when they eat people. Therefore, he was already prepared and did not care about Li Zongjiu at all. There were also some who believed that this was a trap set up by Su Chen and Huang Weihu. It was said that Huang Weihu defeated 2 major forces this morning. If it was Huang Weihu alone, it would be very difficult for him to achieve this. Therefore, it must be the people of the southern city who secretly made a move. Now, he had found an excuse to invite them to Soldier City for a meeting. Was this a joke? Did they look like fools? Would they allow themselves to be manipulated like this? There were also those who planned to go. But they had already contacted and made arrangements in secret. Because the information they received before was related to this evil lord, the information was more accurate. They also knew that the evil lord defeated the people of the Haotian sect tonight and drove out the people of the Haotian sect. There must be a lot of complicated methods behind this. But the only thing they knew was that the evil lord was not someone they could provoke. Therefore, it was better for them to obediently go to the meeting. They knew Su Chen's temper. He would not shed tears until he saw the coffin. This set of old bones was ruthless and fearless. He had made the southern city impregnable. Moreover, he was also extremely good at defense. He did not like to take the initiative to attack. However, if he was hit, he would definitely not suffer any losses. He would risk his life to bite back this piece of meat. This was Su Chen's temper. Since Su Chen came to inform them of this matter, he obviously knew how powerful the evil lord was. This was already certain, so naturally, they did not dare to be careless. The people of the 9 cities were all prepared. However, they were also extremely uneasy about the fate that would befall them tomorrow. No one knew what the situation would be like. The dignified evil lord, with just one sentence, had already caused the land of the 9 cities to fall into an extremely tense state. Only the evil lord had such ability and influence. On the other side, it was the Haotian sect's third martial uncle who had suffered and been humiliated. His real name was Yang Antai. In the Haotian sect's duty hall, he was the second in command among all the deacons. His status was respected. The disciple who was crippled was the disciple of the Haotian sect's Wuliang Peak Master. Boundless Peak's Peak Master and Yang Antai were also fellow disciples. That was why he called Yang Antai third martial uncle. But this time, they left in a hurry, and the 2 people's elemental pearls were also crippled. There was no hope at all, so Yang Antai decisively chose to give up. After all, no one knew the situation at that time. If he did something more and inadvertently angered Li Zhongjiu again, the consequences would be even worse. Perhaps the 2 of them would not be able to return today. The 2 of them had also rehearsed their words along the way. The ruthless evil lord Li Zhongjiu did not put them in his eyes at all. He had also insulted the Haotian sect many times. In the end, he even sneakily attacked the 2 martial nephews. The 2 of them were severely injured and had their cultivations crippled. Not only that, they even captured the 2 of them and used them as hostages. Initially, the 2 of them wanted to fight to the death. However, after considering the situation of the 2 of them, they could only return and report this matter to the sect. And the 2 of them were very coincidental. On the way, they met Elder Lu Wan, who had been wandering around for a few days and did not dare to return to the sect. He had been driven out of the Black Canal Royal City. Originally, he should have returned directly to the sect. But the elder who was injured by the King of Fire was too seriously injured, so he had to recuperate for a few days. When he recovered a little, he hurried back to the sect. In the middle of the night, he met Deputy Hall Master Yang Antai, who had hurried back from afar. Deputy Hall Master Yang, what's the matter? Yang Antai saw that Lu Wan's face was full of worry, and at the same time, there was a shadow that lingered between his eyebrows. It's a long story. Aren't you in the Black Canal Royal City? Why did you return to the sect? Suddenly, Yang Antai thought of some rumors about Li Zhongjiu. It was said that Li Zhongjiu seemed to have destroyed the Black Canal Basilica. Lu Wan happened to be in charge of this matter. Don't tell me you were messed up by that guy called Evil Lord. Yang Antai immediately asked with a gloomy face. Huh? How did you know? Today, we were ordered to occupy the land of the 9 cities. In the end, who knew that Li Zhongjiu would appear? He was extremely strong. We fought with him for thousands of rounds, but in the end, we were seriously injured by him. 2 of our martial nephews were also captured by him. Chapter 1109. At dawn, in the land of 9 cities, within the territory of Soldier City, there was an extremely tense state of deployment and vigilance. These people were all ambitious, and no one could guarantee what they would do. The most important thing was to be careful and take precautions. Today, people from the other 6 cities would be present. The first to arrive was naturally Su Chen from the South City. Su Chen only brought a few loyal subordinates with him. Of course, the rest of the troops were also on standby. If they received the signal, they would certainly not hesitate to attack. You're quite early. Huang Weihu and Su Chen chatted. Su Chen was considered an old senior in the land of 9 cities. His position was respected, and the fact that he could survive until now was enough to prove his strength. If Huang Weihu wanted to choose an alliance, he would definitely choose to ally with Su Chen. The main hall for the meeting was called the Stoneheart Hall. The Stoneheart Hall used a round table. Those who arrived would be seated first. There was no hierarchy or anything like that. Only the leaders sat in the Stoneheart Hall. The rest of the guards also waited directly outside the hall. Once the Stoneheart Hall was closed, the inside and outside would be blocked. Moreover, the layout of the Stoneheart Hall could be seen clearly at a glance. There was no need to worry about any ambush. In addition, because of the structure of the Stoneheart Hall, it was useless to inscribe a yuan inscription formation on it. General Sun Hong from the North City has arrived. General Shi Tian from the East City has arrived. General Lu Chuanfei from the West City has arrived. The 3 of them seem to have agreed to arrive at the same time. I haven't come to the Stoneheart Hall for a long time. How did this place become so dilapidated? After General Sun Hong from the North City walked in, he sat down boldly and put his legs directly on the table. At the same time, he also sneered at the environment of the Stoneheart Hall. In the past, the Stoneheart Hall was the place where the leaders of the land of 9 cities held their annual meeting every year. Even if the relationship between them was tense, they would still come here for the meeting. Of course, this was a tradition left by the ancestors. Later on, this tradition was no longer maintained. Now, unless there was an invasion, no one would come to the Stoneheart Hall to discuss matters. In the past, the relationship between the leaders of the 9 cities was relatively good. However, the people under them were also constantly competing. At the end of the year, if there were still some serious conflicts that had not been resolved, then everyone would discuss in the Stoneheart Palace. Those who needed to be compensated would be compensated, and those who needed to be returned to their territories would be returned to their territories. However, later on, the situation in the 9 cities became even more chaotic, and there was even a change of dynasty. In the end, this fine tradition was shelved. Old Su, since I've met you here today, let's have a proper discussion. You're from the southern city. How dare you step into the territory of my northern city? Do you think I'm dead? Clearly, this Sun Hong had an extremely violent temper. Before coming here, he had already discussed with the other 2. With the 3 of them joining forces, their strength was definitely considered to be extremely strong, at least in this Stoneheart Hall. Hence, there was no need to worry about other situations. It was impossible for all 6 of them to work together. So what if I step on you? Su Chen said disdainfully. Here, it was meaningless to talk about right and wrong. Only when you were strong, you were right. Only when you had a bigger fist was the absolute truth. Otherwise, even if you were right, it would be useless. Well, then I'd like to see whether the ancestral teachings of the Stoneheart Palace can protect you today. Sun Hong slammed the table in front of him. Suddenly, with a loud bang, the stone table in front of him shook violently at this moment. The ancestral teachings of the Stoneheart Palace. You can't fight in the Stoneheart Palace. If you want to fight, you have to wait until you leave the Stoneheart Palace. At that time, you can fight however you want. Seeing that the 2 of them were about to fight, Huang Weihu and the others did not try to stop them. Anyway, they could not stop them. Sooner or later they would fight. It was better to kill a few of them now. Do you think I'm afraid of you? Su Chen's momentum did not decrease at all. Just when both sides were unable to back down, another voice came from outside the door. Wild Lion City General Zhou Bachuan has arrived. Zhou Bachuan. When they heard this name, everyone's eyes revealed a trace of surprise. Among the generals of the 9 cities, they had more or less understood each other's temperament. Everyone guessed that with Zhou Bachuan's character, he would definitely not come. This was because Zhou Bachuan was very disdainful and did not put anyone in his eyes. However, Zhou Bachuan's territory was the smallest. It was also because of this small territory that Zhou Bachuan was very convenient and efficient in managing it. It was also very difficult for outsiders to break in. Ordinary people did not dare to provoke Zhou Bachuan at all. In addition, Zhou Bachuan's strength was also very tyrannical. If it was not necessary, no one would provoke him. Originally, they thought that Zhou Bachuan would not care about the news that Su Chen had sent before. Who would have thought that he would actually come in person this time? The stocky Zhou Bachuan walked in, wearing a golden armor. He was the one who looked the most like a general among these people. It was said that Zhou Bachuan was indeed a soldier. Later on, he wandered to the 9 cities and started a series of entrepreneurial battles. In the end, he came to this step today and became one of the 9 great leaders. All the soldiers under him were extremely well trained. They looked just like a regular army. I didn't expect that even General Zhou would come in person. I thought that General Zhou would not come. Sun Hong said. This Sun Hong was really annoying. He liked to chat with people when he saw them, and then insisted on increasing his sense of existence. However, Zhou Bachuan directly sat down. He did not care about Sun Hong's words at all, as if he did not hear them at all. When Zhou Bachuan sat down, an invisible deterrence was formed. Sun Hong's aura was not worth mentioning at all in front of the latter. After being directly ignored, Sun Hong obviously felt a little bored. In the end, he could only look at Su Chen. After today's meeting is over, I'll come and settle the score with you. Huang Weihu, that evil lord, are you coming or not? If not, I'm going to leave. This general is very busy. Sun Hong said arrogantly. One had to know that Sun Hong was a great general who controlled tens of thousands of soldiers and horses. He was above tens of thousands of people. In his own territory, he could kill anyone he wanted. Being able to come here could be considered as giving face to evil lord. However, now that 6 of them had arrived, Li Zongjiu still did not appear. Did he really think that they were street gangsters? However, no one paid any attention to Sun Hong. After Sun Hong shouted a few words, he directly sat down, moving here and there. Finally, another figure walked in. However, it was a girl in a black gauze dress, not Li Zongjiu. Wan Yulan walked in. Everyone's eyes suddenly fell on Wan Yulan. Is everyone here? Yes, Miss Wan. Except for the general of War City. Everyone else is already here. Huang Weihu quickly got up and said. Then he introduced the people in front of him to Wan Yulan. Why is it a girl? Could it be that the legendary evil lord is a girl? Sun Hong said sarcastically, obviously mocking Wan Yulan. Immediately, Wan Yulan's eyes suddenly became cold, faintly revealing a cold light. When her eyes fell on Sun Hong had a very uncomfortable feeling. But how could he, Sun Hong, be scared by such a little girl? What? Do you want to eat me? I'm afraid it's not convenient here. Why don't you come to my room, and we can have a good talk? Sun Hong said flirtatiously. Immediately, Wan Yulan's eyes released a cold light, and as her eyes flashed, Sun Hong's body seemed to be imprisoned by some kind of force. Spiritual force. Sun Hong immediately sensed it. His face suddenly changed. However, at the same time, a jade talisman on Sun Hong's body lit up instantly. Bang! Sun Hong was directly shaken out and fell to the ground, but he didn't suffer any serious injuries. However, Sun Hong himself was shocked. The spiritual force just now was very terrifying. Fortunately, he had a protective treasure in his hand. Shi Tian and Lu Chuanfei looked at each other. They took out their weapons one after another, facing Wan Yulan in front of them. This stinky girl, you dare to break the ancestral teachings of the Stone Heart Palace and ignore the rules of the 9 cities. What are you waiting for? Take this stinky girl down. Chapter 11:10. Zhou Bachuan glanced at them. His eyes clearly meant that he wanted to say something else. You guys are here to deal with a little girl, yet you still need 3 men to do it. You even dare to call others to help you. Do you have any shame? I feel ashamed for you guys. Huang Weihu and Su Chen naturally couldn't do anything. Huang Weihu knew that Wan Yulan's identity wasn't simple. Wan Yulan was also with Li Zongjiu, so Wan Yulan naturally represented Li Zongjiu. None of you? It seems that you guys treat the words of the ancestor as bullshit. Brothers, call for reinforcements. Since no one was willing to do anything, it meant that no one took the ancestor's words seriously. Of course, they had to call for reinforcements. There was no need for the Stone Heart Palace to continue existing. Today, they would take advantage of this opportunity to completely destroy the Stone Heart Palace. At this point, there was no need for the 9 cities to listen to others. There was no need to care about these people who were already buried in the ground. Wan Yulan immediately sneered. These people really didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Then, her mental strength immediately turned into a raging wave, directly sending the 2 people in front of her flying. Bang bang! Their bodies directly smashed into the wall, and the weapons in their hands fell out. After circling in the air, they directly rushed toward Sun Hong. Sun Hong hurriedly pulled out his long saber and slashed down in front of him. Clang! A distant collision sound was heard. Sun Hong only felt that his hands seemed to be numb. The force was very strong, and at the same time it was endless. A saber and a spear quickly smashed toward Sun Hong. In 2 moves, the saber in Sun Hong's hand was directly knocked away. The long spear penetrated Sun Hong's shoulder, easily nailing Sun Hong to the wall. Whoosh! The other saber directly flew out. Clang! After a flash of cold light, the saber was directly inserted into Sun Hong's head. The end of the saber was still trembling slightly. Sun Hong's eyes widened because the knife was tightly pressed against Sun Hong's scalp. If it had sunk a little more, it would have been enough to split Sun Hong apart. It was as if he had taken a trip to the gates of hell. It made Sun Hong lose all his strength. At this moment, Sun Hong's eyes were filled with fear. Zhou Bachuan and the others glanced at Wan Yulan. Just by using his mental strength, he was able to force the 3 masters into such a state. If he wanted to kill them, their heads would have already fallen to the ground. If you still want to live, then sit back down obediently. Wan Yulan said indifferently. Li Zongjiu entrusted Wan Yulan to handle the distribution of tasks. After all, Wan Yulan was obviously better at these things. With so many people mixed in, it was not easy to distribute the tasks. If it was not done properly, it would be inefficient. If you let Li Zongjiu kill everyone in this room, it would naturally be easy. There would be no difficulty to gather so many people to find the entrance to the Demon Immortal Palace. Naturally, it would require a more delicate distribution. Sure enough, after teaching them a lesson, these people also became well-behaved. Wan Yulan counted. There were only 6 people present. Excluding the 2 people Li Zongjiu killed yesterday, there should be 1 person left. Before dark today, I want you to bring the head of the last person. This 5th grade green heaven spiritual elixir is his. If you can't bring it back, then one of you will have to accompany him. Wan Yulan said. Sun Hong and the others naturally did not dare to speak, especially Sun Hong's shoulder. At this moment, he had to endure the pain of his shoulder and stared at Wan Yulan. Although Wan Yulan did not mention a name, Sun Hong did not hesitate to believe that if someone were to be targeted, it must be him, Sun Hong. This second matter, if anyone spreads it out, they will definitely die. The entrance to the Demon Immortal Palace must be in the 9 cities, and there will be movements in the near future. I want you to always pay attention to the movements in your own territory. Once there is news, immediately inform me. At that time, the evil lord will personally reward you. Wan Yulan said lightly. Demon Immortal Palace. When they heard this news, the 6 people were obviously surprised. One must know that this matter could be said to be a big matter in the Haika dynasty. If he were to sell this information, he would be able to get a lot of benefits. Just by hearing about the Demon Immortal Palace, there were already many storms in the Jianghu before the Demon Immortal Palace even appeared. The most serious was a group of formation masters being kidnapped by a mysterious expert. However, many people also directly pointed the spearhead at the evil lord. However, there was no evidence. Even the Jiuhua sect that leaked the news at the beginning was not sure if it was the evil lord who did it. Now that the entrance to such an important place was in the 9 cities, it was no wonder that these people were a little excited. Regarding the news about the Demon Immortal Palace, today, you will make a blood oath here. If you spread it out, may the heavens and earth destroy you. The time limit is 7 days. After 7 days, the blood oath will be lifted. If anyone is unwilling, you can raise your hand. Wan Yulan threw out a blood oath scroll. This was a scroll about faith. The will of the heavens and earth always existed in everyone's heart. Therefore, if everyone swore to their heart, it would come true. This blood oath scroll was made by some extremely devout people who spent a lot of time refining it. Immediately, the 6 people exchanged glances. Huang Weihu naturally did not hesitate to make a blood oath. Then he pressed a bloody handprint on the scroll. Could it be that these people thought that Li Zhongjiu sent people to discuss things with them? Since the matter had been diluted to such an extent, it should have given them a sufficient opportunity. Otherwise, they would have been like the Supreme Sky Sect, directly supporting one or two of the factions to annex the territories of the other factions and gather their forces to find the existence of this place. What could they do? There would definitely be heavy casualties, and by then, no one knew who would be able to survive. If these people did not make a blood oath today, they would be carried out. The rest of the group followed suit. Sun Hong was much simpler. He wiped his shoulder and pressed his handprint on the scroll. There was only one person left who had not made a blood oath. Zhou Bachuan. I have a request, Zhou Bachuan said. Wan Yulan looked at him. Previously, Wan Yulan had a certain understanding of the people in the 9 cities. Among them, Zhou Bachuan was the most difficult to understand. Zhou Bachuan did not seem to have any intention of fighting for hegemony. He only wanted to bring a place for his people to live in. Therefore, among the many people, they were the most difficult group to control. This was because they were not greedy and had a firm will. At the same time, Wan Yulan also guessed that the identity of Zhou Bachuan and the others in front of her was actually a private army. She just did not know which noble's army belonged to. Speak, Wan Yulan said. She had a lot of respect for giants. As long as these people were obedient, there would be no problem. If you find the entrance, please let me enter the Demon Suppression Palace with you. I will not take any treasures, Zhou Bachuan said. Wan Yulan frowned. What did Zhou Bachuan mean by this? However, Zhou Bachuan was not a threat to them. Since he wanted to go together, there was no harm. In order to make these people work harder and search for the entrance, Wan Yulan naturally nodded. Okay, I promise you. Zhou Bachuan suddenly laughed. Then, he made a blood oath and pressed his bloody handprint. If you all work hard, Evil Lord will not mistreat you, Wan Yulan said, and left the Stone Heart Palace. The 6 people were still sitting in their seats. Who will deal with that guy in War City? My men are located far away, and they haven't been training much recently. Last time, we lost a lot of men, so I'm here to support you, Sun Hong said straightforwardly. He was simply shameless. War City Ma Tingzhan. He was also a very powerful and ruthless character. Leave this person to me. Wild Lion City's General Zhou Bachuan stood up and said. Among these people, it seemed that only Zhou Bachuan had the ability to face the enemy head-on. I will bring people to support you. Huang Weihu also stood up and said. Chapter 11:11. Li Zhongjiu was studying the stone tripod cauldron in his hand. Since it was used as a guide for the Demon Suppression Palace, there must be something mysterious about it. The reason why he sent people to find the entrance to the Demon Suppression Palace so quickly was because Li Zhongjiu also believed that there was more than one stone tripod cauldron. Soon others would receive the news. Just like these people from the Haotian sect. You and I will set up the maze formation and hide the entire 9 cities. After pondering for a while, Li Zhongjiu finally decided to hide the land of the 9 cities first. The maze formation covered the entire 9 cities. Firstly, it could isolate the aura. Secondly, it could at least buy more time. At the same time, it could prevent these people from spreading the news. But what Li Zhongjiu didn't know was that Wan Yulan had already made those people swear a blood oath. No one dared to break the oath. Li Yun and Li Zhongjiu spent the whole afternoon setting up the maze formation. Your cultivation of formations has improved so quickly. Li Yun's talent in formations was already considered good. But Li Zhongjiu's talent was even more terrifying than hers. It's because I refined those people's cultivation that I was able to make such great progress. No. The maze formation in the incomplete book of formations doesn't have much requirement for the formation master's cultivation. If the formation master's cultivation is strong, the power of the formation will be stronger, and the weak ones will be weaker. But after you read it twice, you can directly understand it. You don't need to study it too much. This is why your talent is so strong. Li Yun obviously had a more thorough understanding of the study of the incomplete book of formations than Li Zongjio. Now, what Li Yun said made Li Zongjio feel a little strange. In his previous life, he had also wanted to study formations, but he didn't make much progress. The main reason was that this wasn't his hobby. But just now, when Li Yun showed him the introduction of the maze array, he only read it twice and completely mastered it, as if it was a very simple thing. This surprised Li Zongjio himself. He originally thought that it was only because his cultivation of formations had improved, so when he looked at these things, it was naturally much simpler. But now, after Li Yun's reminder, could it be that I've been enlightened? Li Zongjio was also puzzled. It was hard to explain things like orifices awakening. The human body itself was very mysterious. It was like being able to cultivate and break through continuously. In his previous life, Li Zongjio was only at the peak of the Supreme Being realm. But Li Zongjio could feel that there was a lot of potential in his body that had yet to be unlocked. To what extent could a person's body develop? Li Zongjio heard a rumor that the mountains, rivers, and swamps were all formed from the body of an ancient god after his death. At first it seemed like a myth, but in reality, it was not impossible in the eyes of the strong. For example, if a supreme being who cultivated ice elemental energy died on a barren mountain, the energy in his body would directly flow into the barren mountain. Over time, the barren mountain would become a glacier. Orifice's awakening was like suddenly opening up a road that had never been taken before. Originally, one would need to dig bit by bit, and very patiently dig deep to be able to open up this road. But under certain circumstances, when this road was opened up, wouldn't one be able to move forward courageously? Li Zongjio was also guessing. Then Li Zongjio took the remnants of the formation book from Li Yun. With one look, it was out of control. The two of them were still outside the city. Li Zongjio was sitting on the ground, reading the remnants of the formation book in his hands. Li Yun was beside him to protect him. Originally, Li Zongjio was just casually flipping through the book, but who knew that once the book was opened, it would be difficult to close it. The King of Fire and Wan Yulan also came to take a look. "I'll be fine here. You can go about your business," the King of Fire said. Li Zongjio had already been sitting outside the city for 3 days. He flipped from the first page to the last. When Li Zongjio closed the book and closed his eyes, it was as if the door to a new world had been easily pushed open, and a new world appeared in front of him. Why is it only at level 7? Li Zongjio seemed to have a feeling that he had not had enough. After reading the book in his hands, he still did not feel satisfied. He was already an 8th level formation master. Therefore, if his level was high enough, he could continue reading and naturally learn up to the 8th level formation. In just 3 days, Li Zongjio had already learned all the formations in the remnants of the formation book. Although it could be said that he had not really reached the level of mastery, he could roughly grasp it. However, he was able to roughly grasp it, so there was naturally no problem in using it. However, the array formation scroll in his hand was really just a remnant scroll. This made Li Zongjio feel as if he had not eaten his fill, and had already been taken away from the table by someone else. "I'm hungry." Li Zongjio touched his stomach. The King of Fire and Li Yun were both waiting beside Li Zongjio. When they saw that Li Zongjio had woken up, they also went forward. "You've learned all of it." The King of Fire looked at Li Zongjio in surprise. At that time, Li Yun also gave the Fire Wraith King the remnants of the array formation scroll. However, the Fire Wraith King was not very interested in arrays at that time. As for his own strength, he was born with it. Later on, he did not have to learn much before he mastered it. However, the King of Fire could also see that the formation book in Li Yun's hands had an extraordinary origin. The formations recorded in the book all had a certain ancient attribute. In terms of the degree of deciphering, it was more difficult. In terms of power, it was also more powerful. For example, the 6th level formation's power was actually equivalent to a 7th level formation. The 7th level formations recorded in the last 3 books were directly equivalent to the power of an 8th level formation. Even if it was a remnant book, It was enough to become a top formation book at that time. Throughout the Heike dynasty, there were only a few 8th level formation masters. Basically, I've learned all of them. Li Zongjie said. If there's a chance, we have to find the remaining half of the book. At least there's still so much content that we haven't found yet. Immediately, Li Zongjie directly pointed with his finger. At least half of the content was left. Even this book was only about 1/3 of the content. How terrifying would the formations recorded in the latter part of the book be? Let's go back and eat something first. I'll treat you to braised meat rice, Li Zongjie said directly. Immediately, he waved his hand and brought the 2 women back to the 9 cities. In addition to the forces of the 9 cities, of course, there were also many residents and people who came to trade in the past. However, the situation seemed to be more serious recently. Even the people who came to trade were now hiding and did not dare to show themselves easily. It was said that the city was shuffling the cards. The head of the leader of one of the forces, the general who was known as the God of War, was directly hung in the market. Next to him were the heads of his 10 loyal subordinates. It formed an extremely terrifying deterrent. Chapter 11-12. Therefore, these people had become a lot more well-behaved recently. However, they had also heard that the one who had crippled the so-called war god was the general of Wild Lion City, Zhou Bachuan. This was Zhou Bachuan's battle record that day. It was also very shocking. Even Sun Hong, who had always been arrogant, was completely shocked that day. Zhou Bachuan only brought 20 people and had the rest wait outside while he led his men into War City's territory. Suddenly, blood flowed like a river in War City as blades flashed and swords flashed. The battle lasted for an hour. Shouts and screams shook the sky. In the end, corpses covered the entire street. Although Zhou Bachuan's subordinates were seriously injured, none of them died. 21 people walked out of the bloody street with their heads in their hands. At that time, the evil chi of these 21 people was the fiercest these people had ever seen in so many years. A truly ruthless person didn't need to kill people every day. They only needed to kill once at a critical moment. Just this one battle was enough for these people to remember for a few more years. Damn, this is too awesome. Sun Hong and the others couldn't help but recall the scene from that day. They were shocked again and again in their hearts. Every time they thought about it, they were shocked again and again. They were speechless. Who would have thought that this big brute, who was usually silent and always liked to wear armor, would actually have such strength? Although armor had defensive properties, it was more of an ornamental effect. Its true defensive properties were far inferior to a protective talisman or some kind of inner armor. Of course, if it was a special armor, it would be a different story. However, Zhou Bachuan, who looked like a poor commoner, didn't look like someone who could make such a super armor. Li Zongjie and the others were eating in a restaurant in the city. Wang Yulan had also come and had brought with him some considerable information. Currently, there were a few strange places in the city, and they were all believed to be the entrance to the Demon Immortal Palace. However, these places revealed a trace of strangeness that made people not dare to approach them easily. Therefore, there was no way to investigate. But now, it had been sealed, and no one was allowed to approach. Who is this Zhou Bachuan? So powerful? Li Zongjie was interested in Zhou Bachuan. Although Li Zongjie had never heard of Zhou Bachuan's name, about 300 years ago in his previous life, there was a very powerful military force that appeared on the mainland. This was a wild army that didn't belong to any faction. However, it had its own banner. It was called the Bachuan Army. The Bachuan Army's greatest battle was to conquer Raiders Island. The Raiders Island was the main culprit of the chaos on the mainland at that time. The Chuanfu Army, with only 400 people, directly landed on the Raiders Island without saying anything. Then, they launched a fierce battle for 4 days and 4 nights, killing nearly 30,000 bandits on the other side. From then on they became famous. However, this Bachuan army directly disappeared after pacifying Raiders Island. No one knew where these Bachuan army went. I also checked the information, but there was no accurate information. Wang Yulan also frowned and said, when Zhou Bachuan appeared, She already felt that something was wrong, but she didn't find any clues. Few people knew the origin of this group of people led by Zhou Bachuan. It's okay. Let's just take these people. Since Zhou Bachuan wants to go in, let's go together. Tell him that not only can he go in, but he can also bring people in. Li Zongjie said while eating. Wang Yulan nodded. With Li Zongjie's temper, he naturally wouldn't care about Zhou Bachuan's little tricks. Now, it seemed that Li Zongjie was very interested in this person called Zhou Bachuan. After the meal, Li Zongjie and the others also followed Wang Yulan to 3 strange places in the city that could be the entrance. The first place they came to was a dry well. The dry well had been dry for hundreds of years. However, some time ago, black liquid began to seep out from the ground. Furthermore, the liquid was constantly emitting a foul stench. It was unbearable. In the end, it was forcibly sealed by someone. However, just yesterday, the black water in the well gushed out directly and permeated the surroundings. It was quite corrosive. Fortunately, the eruption of the mysterious black water only lasted for a short period of time. If it continued, no one knew what would happen. This black well just happened to appear in Sun Hong's territory. It was also the first time that Sun Hong saw the real face of the evil lord. To be honest, when Sun Hong saw Li Zongjie for the first time, he couldn't help but look down on him. How dare a kid who hadn't even grown out his hair call himself the evil lord? However, when Sun Hong saw that Wang Yulan consciously followed Li Zongjie, he naturally didn't dare to say anything. This well used to be a dry well. Recently, strange things have happened. Many people say that this is a curse well. At this moment, the well cover had been opened, and the black water was gently swaying under the well. I don't think this place can be the entrance. Only a fool would jump down from here. Anything that falls down will be corroded by the black water. Sun Hong said. After Li Zongjie took a closer look, he then looked at Sun Hong. What's your name again? Sun Hong was stunned. He didn't understand why Li Zongjie suddenly asked this. Li Zongjie really deserved to die. He didn't even know Sun Hong's name. I'm General Sun Hong. When Sun Hong said this, he was a little proud and slightly puffed out his chest. Okay, you help me explore the way down, Li Zongjie said. Before Sun Hong understood what Li Zongjie meant, Li Zongjie had already grabbed Sun Hong and directly threw him into the black well. Ah! Sun Hong only had time to let out a scream. Then with a splash, he fell directly into the black well. When Sun Hong's subordinates saw this, they immediately wanted to take action. However, Wang Yulan just turned around and glanced at these people. These people also dilly-dallied and didn't dare to come closer. Seems like it's not here. Sun Hong's body was corroded by the black water not long after. It emitted a foul smell. In the future, you will be in charge of his territory. Li Zongjie casually pointed. This person was one of Sun Hong's subordinates. He had been loyal to Sun Hong for many years. Originally, he thought that he would never have the opportunity to rise up in this life. However, he was suddenly promoted, which made this person very surprised. Yes, subordinate Ho Baoshan obeys. This black water is the blood of the demon clan. This should be connected to a blood pool. The surrounding array is a little broken, which caused the blood to flow out. Li Yan, repair the array here. Killing Sun Hong was a piece of cake for Li Zongjie. He didn't even take it seriously. He clapped his hands and left. Li Yan stayed to repair the seal array temporarily. The next 2 places they went still didn't find anything. However, there were already people coming to the land of the 9 cities. However, these people didn't find the land of the 9 cities, because the land of the 9 cities had been covered by the maze array set up by Li Zongjie and Li Yan. In the sky, the warship from the Haotian sect patrolled back and forth in the air. But they didn't see any signs of the city. Are you sure it's here? Yang Antai stood respectfully at the side. Lu Wan and the others followed beside him. Only a man in a purple gold robe was sitting on an extremely luxurious chair. There was a purple gold tiger lying next to his feet. The tiger's tail swayed slightly, but there was an extremely strong evil spirit. The Haotian sect's Haotian worship was self-developed, but in fact, it was processed from other places. Some of the things were forcibly taken from other warships and installed. Deputy sect leader, it must be here. but I don't know why I can't find it. However, it must be here. It's such a big city, how can it run away? Then let's have a bombardment. Deputy sect leader Lu Baixian said indifferently. Immediately he waved his hand. Immediately, countless black cannon barrels stretched out from the Haotian warship and began to bombard the forest below. Rumble. In an instant the earth shook and the mountains shook. Chapter 11:13. Even the earth was shaking violently. The people in the 9 cities were almost thrown off their feet by the shaking. With great difficulty, his body finally stabilized. Dozens of waves of air came in a row. Rumble. The terrifying waves kept hitting the land of the 9 cities. However, the shock waves were blocked by a light screen. The generals were shocked when they felt the strong shaking. Li Zhongjiu and King of Fire looked up at the sky. The people outside couldn't see inside, but the people inside could see outside. It's the Haotian sect, Wan Yulan exclaimed when she saw the Haotian sect's flag and the Haotian warship. They did it in such a way. The Haotian sect has no respect for the law. Although the 9 cities was chaotic, it was still within the Haika dynasty. Moreover, it was the territory of the Haika dynasty. The Haotian sect used its strength to force them out in such a way. The use of such heavy weapons violated the Haika dynasty's law of peace. Relying on his own strength, he could actually do whatever he wanted. I heard that there's an arrogant evil lord here. Do you dare to come out and fight with me? A voice came from the warship. The people in the city were also very surprised. The name of the evil dominator had spread to this city in the past 2 days. Many people who came from the outside had heard of the evil dominator's name, but very few people had seen the evil dominator's true appearance. Once they heard that the famous evil dominator was actually in this city, they all became excited and started discussing with each other. Zhou Bachuan and the others stared at the Haotian warship in the sky with killing intent. They seemed to have a strong fighting spirit in their hearts. However, in the face of the Haotian sect's experts, Zhou Bachuan and the others were obviously very weak. It seems that the legendary evil lord is just a coward. Lu Baixian looked down. At this moment, the location of the 9 cities was very obvious. The silhouette of a city could be clearly seen below. Because of the protection of the formation, the previous round of cannon fire didn't cause any damage. Naturally, this location was exposed. However, Lu Baixian was also slightly surprised. Just now, under his nose, he used his mind power to search but found nothing. This made Lu Baixian think more highly of Li Zhongjiu's strength. He must not underestimate this evil lord. However, this evil lord was arrogant. He should teach him a lesson. Like I said, the place is here. Yang Antai muttered softly. When he came here that day, he had done a good job of positioning himself. This was because the situation in this mountain would indeed change greatly. Sometimes he would not know where the person had gone even if he just turned around in a circle. The light screen opened. Li Zhongjiu and the King of Fire rose into the sky. The people in the 9 cities also stopped what they were doing and looked up at the man and woman in the sky. The man was naturally evil lord. As for the woman, it was very likely that she was the legendary Supreme Flame. It was said that Supreme Flame's strength was more powerful than evil lords. The relationship between the two seemed to be brother and sister, but also seemed to be lovers. Anyway, the rest of the people did not know the situation and only knew to make wild guesses. Are they finally going to show their skills? Seeing the 2 people rise into the sky, Lu Chuanfei and Shirquan hurriedly sent someone to inform Sun Hong. Unexpectedly, someone came to report that Sun Hong was killed by evil lord a few minutes ago. The person in charge now was Sun Hong's subordinate, Ho Baoshan. What? Dead? When Lu Chuanfei and Shirquan heard this, they couldn't believe their ears. A dignified big shot of the 9 cities died just like that, without any warning at all. Moreover, no one seemed to know the reason. Someone saw Li Zhongjiu push Sun Hong directly into the dry well. Then Sun Hong turned into a pool of blood. It was a tragic end. There was indeed a trace of shock in their eyes. It seemed that this Li Zhongjiu was truly a ruthless person. The person who came is surnamed Lu. Could he be the Haotian sect's deputy sect leader? I heard that this Lu Baixian has been cultivating for more than 200 years, and has long been unparalleled in the world. More than 100 years ago, his name shook the entire Heike dynasty. Now he actually came personally to kill him. Everyone was guessing. This person could be said to be the Haotian sect's golden signboard. Today, he showed up here to win back face for the Haotian sect. Otherwise, others would think that the Haotian sect was easy to bully. It's actually Liu Baixian who is personally killing him. When Yuan finally understood why the other party was so arrogant and dared to open fire on the city in the Heike dynasty, it was because the person who came was Liu Baixian, the Haotian sect's deputy sect leader. He was an all-powerful person 100 years ago. At that time, he was already standing at the top of the continent. There were not many things in the world that he had to worry about. Wang Yuan did not expect that Liu Baixian would actually personally take action. This was indeed somewhat unexpected and unexpected. A battle between an expert of the previous era and a rising star of the younger generation. Speaking of Liu Baixian, 100 years ago, he was definitely more arrogant than the current Li Zhongjie. Now that the two of them were fighting here, it would definitely be a battle of the century. Li Zhongjie and King of Fire soared into the air. Liu Baixian saw Li Zhongjie and King of Fire rushing out. He directly ignored Li Zhongjie and focused his attention on King of Fire. The fire attribute in this woman's body is incomparably pure. If I capture and refine her, it will definitely improve my skills. Just as Liu Baixian was thinking about refining King of Fire's skills and making his own powerful strength, he suddenly saw Li Zhongjie directly accelerate and directly collide with them. Boom! Li Zhongjie's speed was incomparably fast. What is this guy trying to do? Liu Wan could not help but be surprised. In the next second, Li Zhongjie directly crashed into the Haotian warship with a loud bang. Immediately, billowing smoke erupted from the Haotian warship and soared into the sky. The control room in the cabin also instantly exploded at this moment. Bang! The huge Haotian warship directly fell from the sky. I let you go back alive to pass on the message. Since you still don't know what's good for you, then leave your lives here. Li Zhongjie held the black dragon hammer in his hand and stared at the people in front of him indifferently. Originally, there were many disciples in the cabin who piloted the warship. However, they were directly killed in the explosion. As for Liu Baixian and the others, their cultivation was not weak. Their figures also hovered in the air, forming a confrontation with Li Zhongjie. Young man, don't be too arrogant. You should know that there is always someone better than you. Liu Baixian looked at Li Zhongjie in front of him and said. There was a hint of guiding the younger generation in his tone. Clearly, he was telling Li Zhongjie that he was still too young and did not know the immensity of heaven and earth, just because he had a little ability. In front of an old senior like him, he should obediently put away his arrogance. I don't know that there is always someone better than you, but I have seen a lot of dead people. As his voice fell, Li Zhongjie directly smashed his hammer towards Liu Baixian. The black dragon hammer immediately bloomed with the power of thunder and lightning, like countless electric nets covering the entire sky. Liu Baixian saw that the other party was coming at him aggressively, and was not as simple as it seemed. He immediately stretched out his hand, and a tyrannical aura surged out of his body. Suddenly, the Yuan Qi in his body formed a fire sword and slashed forward. Boom! Using fire to fight against lightning. Under the sword, the lightning actually quickly dodged to the sides. It was split open by the other party's aura. Liu Baixian in front of him was indeed a cultivator, with a lower cultivation base. If Li Zhongjie were to fight the latter one-on-one, he would have to expend a lot of energy. However, Li Zhongjie was not alone at this moment. No matter what method he used, as long as he could kill him, it would be a good thing. The King of Fire soared into the sky with a flaming gust of wind. The King of Fire seemed to have transformed into a fire phoenix behind him. The fire phoenix spread its wings and instantly covered the sky. The sky was filled with incomparably deep flames. Just by relying on the light of the flames, it was enough to burn the mountains and boil the sea. The tyrannical flames spread out in the sky. When the people in the 9 cities below saw this scene, their eyes reflected the flames that filled the sky, as if it was the end of the world. Was this the power of the Flame Supreme? under the cover of the Flame Supreme's power. Even Lu Baixian had a difficult look on his face. He had cultivated for more than 200 years, and had never met such a powerful opponent. When the other party's flames spread out, he did not have any thoughts of resisting. The origin of the ancestor of fire. Lu Baixuan's eyes shone with a bright light. It must be the ancestor of all fires to bring such a feeling of despair. Not good run. Chapter 11:14. If the other party had really inherited the power of the ancestor of all fires, then he would be really powerful. Against such an opponent, it could be said that there was no chance of victory at all. Therefore, Lu Baixuan's first reaction was to escape. With his ability, he believed that even if he was no match for the King of Fire, if he wanted to escape, not many people could stop him. Lu Baixuan's figure instantly moved backward. Buzz! A powerful force shrouded his body, and at the same time, there seemed to be countless vengeful spirits flying in his mind, constantly biting his body and tormenting his soul. Not good. The 8 burning soul pillars had already locked onto Lu Baixian. When the latter wanted to escape, Li Zhongjiu took the initiative to release the burning soul pillars. He sealed off the area. What? Lu Baixian was still able to resist. After all, as a supreme being expert, it was not so easy to be defeated so quickly. Li Zhongjiu, we have no enmity with you. If you let me leave now, the Haotian sect will let bygones be bygones. Otherwise, between you and me, the best result today is a life and death struggle. Lu Baixian stared fiercely at Li Zhongjiu. Life and death struggle? Then I'd like to see how a dead fish like you can break my net. Immediately, Li Zhongjiu's figure landed outside the array, and the black dragon hammer in his hand suddenly smashed downwards. Boom! A loud sound came, and immediately, the burning soul array in front of him was filled with the power of thunder and lightning. Suddenly, terrifying thunder and lightning rushed out. Boom! Lu Baixuan's defense immediately suffered a great impact. The flaming phoenix behind the King of Fire also turned into a ball of flame and rushed into the array. Boom! Lu Baixian, who had the cultivation of a second-grade sovereign, was directly forced out of his original spirit in this soul-burning array. Purple golden-striped tiger. When the purple golden-striped tiger appeared, it was still in extreme pain. He had never thought that he would be treated so horribly the moment he appeared. It was simply not a place for humans to stay. The purple gold-striped tiger primordial spirit was almost instantly reduced to ashes. After Lu Baixian blocked the first wave of attacks, he attacked the soul-burning array with all his might. He used his powerful origin energy to attack the array, in a futile attempt to break the soul-burning array. It was obvious that this process was extremely difficult. When Lu Yuan, Yang Antai, and the others saw this, they immediately wanted to rush over and help the vice sect leader. If Lu Baixian was trapped in this array formation, then they wouldn't even have the chance to go back. Li Zhongjiu would easily take their heads. A bunch of trash, get lost. Li Zhongjiu glanced at these people and immediately waved his hand. A domineering force blasted towards them. Buddha's palm. The 4 primitive emperors who rushed over were actually sent flying by Li Zhongjiu's move. Puff! A mouthful of blood was spat out in midair. Vice sect leader. When Lu Wan saw this, he immediately shouted. Then, Lu Wan looked back and forth at the city below. Sure enough, he saw Wan Yulan in the city. You guys hold on. I'll go get the hostage. Lu Wan directly charged towards Wan Yulan. Although taking hostages was a despicable thing, and the Haotian sect as a major sect disdained to do so, but now was the time to save their lives. Who would care so much? Hence, Lu Wan directly rushed towards Wan Yulan. Li Zhongjiu was controlling the formation, so naturally, it was impossible for him to escape. He immediately frowned. If Wan Yulan was captured by the other party, it would be more or less troublesome. Hence, he had to stop the latter before that happened. Yang Antai and the other 2 figures rose into the air. At this moment, they did not dare to get too close to Li Zhongjiu, because Li Zhongjiu's strength was really strong. Moreover, Li Zhongjiu seemed to be quite experienced in close combat. Hence, these people did not dare to get close to Li Zhongjiu at all. They attacked with Yuan Li from afar. Immediately, 3 waves of Yuan Li converged towards Li Zhongjiu across the air. Boom! A fire shield appeared around the Fire Wraith King. Immediately, it blocked the 3 people's Yuan Qi. At the same time, it protected herself and Li Zhongjiu. The 3 of them couldn't even break through the Fire Wraith King's defense with their Yuan Qi. Furthermore, they had reached a point where they couldn't back down. It wouldn't be easy for them to let go. Once the other party stopped, King of Fire's strength would definitely attack along with the Yuan Li retracted. Damn it! Lu Baixian never thought that he would encounter such a situation today. This group of people was simply too abominable. They attacked without saying anything. It would have been better if they had come to negotiate a little. However, Li Zhongjia's character was just like that. Once he attacked, he would not give the other party a chance to back out. The only hope now was for Lu Wan to capture Wan Yulan. Only by capturing Wan Yulan would he be able to make the other party fear him, and not dare to deal with him so arrogantly. Lu Baixian secretly swore in his heart. If he could escape today, he would definitely annihilate Li Zhongjiu's entire family in the future. When Lu Wan rushed towards Wan Yulan had already expected it. However, Lu Wan's speed was too fast, and he was already in front of her in almost an instant. Wan Yulan's mental energy could deal with a 6th, or even a 7th stage primitive emperor expert. However, Lu Wan was already a 9th stage primitive emperor. How difficult would it be to deal with him? The gap between them could not be underestimated. Lu Wan struck out a palm, and at the same time, released a Yuan Li to resist Wan Yulan's mental energy. Lu Wan had stayed in the Black Canal Royal City for some time, and he had some understanding of Wan Yulan's strength. Sure enough, in the next moment, Wan Yulan's mental energy attacked with an earth-shattering force. Boom! Even though he was prepared, Lu Wan was still impacted by the force. His body shook slightly, and even the strength and speed of his palm were reduced. The front was blasted apart by the palm. However, Wan Yulan's body wasn't injured at all, because the palm had landed on empty space. Wan Yulan's figure had already dodged. However, Lu Wan did not have the slightest scruple or reservation at this moment. Taking down Wan Yulan was the most important thing. Rumble! Lu Wan struck out 72 palms consecutively. The 72 palms gathered together, and the power was extremely terrifying. The entire 9 cities shook, and the buildings within a radius of 500 meters were easily destroyed. Wan Yulan saw Lu Wan's palm strike unexpectedly hit a little girl in the ruins. Wan Yulan, who was originally prepared to dodge, did not hesitate to rush in front of the little girl. She held the little girl in her arms, and at the same time, she circulated her mental energy to form a defensive shield around her body. She blocked the attack in front of her. Wan Yulan was originally prepared to withstand this terrifying attack. Even Lu Wan's face revealed a smile. However, at this moment, several figures flew over and landed in front of Wan Yulan. Clang, clang, clang. The thick black iron shields were stacked together. Lu Wan's elemental energy blasted on the black iron shield array. The black iron shield array was not damaged at all. Just as Lu Wan's eyes were filled with shock, a stalwart figure rushed out from the ruins. The huge battle axe in his hand instantly chopped down on Lu Wan's head. When Lu Yuan saw this, he subconsciously raised his hand in an attempt to block the axe. Swish! Lu Wan's arm was directly chopped off. Ah! The elemental energy in Lu Wan's body vibrated, and suddenly, a terrifying force shook out from his body, causing the person to retreat a few steps. You dare to chop off my arm? Lu Wan looked at the chopped-off arm in front of him. He glared at the person in front of him. The 9 cities is not a place for you to behave atrociously. Zhou Bachuan swung the battle axe in his hand. Behind him, hundreds of experts rushed out and surrounded Lu Wan. A bunch of trash, how dare you block me? Lu Wan could see that the reason why Zhou Bachuan could chop off his arm was not because he was strong, but because the axe was too sharp. Today, even if I flatten the 9 cities, so what? Chop! Zhou Bachuan ordered, and the iron guards in front of him moved together. Zhou Bachuan also rushed forward. Just as these people moved, they suddenly felt a tyrannical force enter their bodies. Boom! Everyone's strength increased by more than 30%. Poor Lu Wan. under the siege of these people, was beheaded by Zhou Bachuan in just a few moves. He looked back at Wang Yulan. Just now, it was because of Wang Yulan's mental energy that their strength increased greatly. It turned out that this was Wang Yulan's powerful mental ability. I didn't expect General Zhou's strength to be so extraordinary. Wang Yulan put down the little girl in her arms. The little girl hurriedly ran into the distance to look for her parents. You flatter me. Chapter 11:15. The battle below had been decided. Immediately, Yang Antai and the others glanced at them hesitantly. At the same time, they glanced at Lu Baixian, who was trapped in the soul-burning array. Obviously, the three of them were already thinking of retreating. Deputy sect leader, you must hold on. Let's go back and report to the sect leader. We'll bring people to help. Yang Antai immediately shouted. Then, the three of them bravely cut their losses and directly withdrew from the power of the King of Fire's fire shield, even though they were seriously injured. Lu Baixian glanced at the direction where Yang Antai and the others had escaped. In his eyes, he even had the thought of eating Yang Antai and the others alive. He didn't expect these people to be so unreliable. At such a critical moment, they left him to die. However, Lu Baixian didn't say anything. After all, the current situation was extremely dangerous. If they stayed, they would only die. It was better to escape. But who would want to die if they could live? Li Zhongjiu naturally saw Lu Baixuan's unhappiness. Now Lu Baixian was almost dying in Li Zhongjiu's soul-burning array. It was mainly the power of the King of Fire's ancestor of fire that burned Lu Baixian badly. Under the flames, he was burning in extreme pain. Withdraw the power, Li Zhongjiu said to the King of Fire. At this moment, Lu Baixian was about to reach the end of his life. At most, in half an hour, he would be burned to ashes by the joint power of the two. Although the King of Fire didn't know what Li Zhongjiu meant, since he said so, he withdrew the flames in his hand. Lu Baixian also felt the pressure on his body disappear. He was also surprised. Then, he looked at Li Zhongjiu with an incredulous look. After the King of Fire withdrew the power, Li Zhongjiu directly raised his hand and withdrew the 8 burning soul pillars. Although Li Zhongjiu had withdrawn all his moves at this moment, Lu Baixian simply couldn't understand what this kid was trying to do. What do you mean? Are you trying to humiliate me? Lu Baixian said proudly. There was a feeling that he would rather die than live in dishonor. A warrior would rather die than be humiliated. What did this guy mean? Nothing. There's no challenge in killing an old man like you. I'll let you go this time. However, if your Supreme Sky sect doesn't repent, then just wait for your sect to be destroyed, Li Zhongjiu said as he waved his hand. You can go. Lu Baixian didn't agree at once. Although he saved his life, Li Zhongjiu's words were clearly asking him to betray his sect. Emir Li Zhongjiu actually wanted him, Lu Baixian, to be a deserter. Even if he died in battle with dignity, he absolutely couldn't go back with such humiliation. However, only by living could he wash away the humiliation, right? Li Zhongjiu, I'll remember you. The Haotian sect will also remember you. Lu Baixian stared at Li Zhongjiu. Li Zhongjiu could see Lu Baixian in front of him even with his toes. Lu Baixian was a vengeful person, but he was better at bullying the weak and fearing the strong. If he let Lu Baixian go, he would certainly not let Yang Antai and the others who just escaped. As for Li Zhongjiu, if he didn't find a strong enough helper and have enough confidence to kill Li Zhongjiu, he would certainly not turn back easily, because this guy was very afraid of death. But he couldn't leave an image of a coward in front of so many people. So he just stubbornly said a few words, and in the end, didn't he run away directly? You're letting him go just like that? King of Fire looked at Li Zhongjiu. This was not like Li Zhongjiu's character. But Li Zhongjiu often did such things. Didn't Tian Fei of the Black Sky sect also have his origin pearl destroyed? And then he was personally saved by Li Zhongjiu and used to deal with the Black Sky sect? He was really capable of doing all kinds of strange things. I just collected some interest. It doesn't matter if I kill him or not. Li Zhongjiu said. Sometimes, killing people was just a temporary pleasure, and it couldn't relieve one's boredom in the long run. Li Zhongjiu had reached the level where it didn't matter if he killed or not. As long as it was fun, it was enough to play for a long time. As for the interest that Li Zongjie mentioned, he was tossing the storage ring in his hand. When he took back the soul-burning formation just now, he also took this old thing's storage ring. With this old thing's temperament, there might be something good in the storage ring. You're very naughty. King of Fire didn't know how to evaluate Li Zongjie, but from King of Fire's point of view, it was okay to not kill. If the people of the Haoyan sect knew how to restrain themselves, then it would be fine. If they didn't, then they could only wait to be destroyed. If King of Fire's temper became angry, then no one could stop him. The people of the 9 cities below looked up at the person in the sky. Their eyes widened, and their mouths were wide open. What did they just see? When the young man rushed into the sky, he directly smashed the powerful Haoyan warship. Could it be that the young man's body was stronger than the warship? After that, without saying anything, an earth-shattering battle directly broke out. This battle was quite fierce. It could be said that there was no prelude at all. It was as if they had met to avenge their father's death, and an extremely huge battle directly began. There were 4 people on the other side, and there were only 2 people on the other side. The last 2 people were suppressing the 4 people. 3 of them actually ran away when they saw that the situation was not good. Anyone could imagine that when the last person caught up with the first 3 people, it would be a fierce battle. At this moment, everyone could be said to have witnessed the strength of Evil Lord and Supreme Flame. Their fame immediately spread in the city. Li Zongjie and Supreme Flame landed. They first went to check on Wan Yulan's situation. After all, she was targeted by Lu Wen just now. It was also because of Zhou Bachuan that she was able to escape. You're Zhou Bachuan. Li Zongjie glanced at the mighty and majestic man. The axe in Zhou Bachuan's hand was somewhat like an ancient demonic weapon. I am. Zhou Bachuan replied. Your axe is not bad. But if you want to control him, you need to deepen your cultivation and temperament. Here is a bottle of pills. Give it to your subordinates. If the Demon Suppression Palace opens, you can bring your men and enter with us. Li Zongjie was someone who would repay kindness. Saving Wan Yulan was helping Li Zongjie's friend. Zhou Bachuan originally wanted to show that this was a simple matter, and that Evil Lord did not need to be so polite. However, when he held the bottle in his hand, he already felt that something was wrong. What? Using his mental power to scan it, Zhou Bachuan was shocked by Evil Lord's generosity. In the porcelain bottle that Li Zongjie gave him, there were actually close to 200 5th-grade pills. Even if he gave one to each of his subordinates, there would still be a lot. Zhou Bachuan even thought that Evil Lord might have taken the wrong bottle. To Zhou Bachuan, this was simply a great bargain. Even in the Black Canal Imperial City, it was not easy to obtain 5th-grade pills. Moreover, in the 9 cities, it was almost impossible to obtain so many pills. Who knew how long it would take to accumulate them? Thank you, Lord Evil Lord, for your reward. What else could Zhou Bachuan say? With such a great benefit, even if he had to be thick-skinned, he had to keep the pills. Just the contents of this small bottle were enough to raise the strength of the entire team behind Zhou Bachuan by a level. This was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Now, Zhou Bachuan had already confirmed that Evil Lord Li Zongjie was a real big shot. A casual reward from him would be a reward that could not be exchanged for a lifetime of hard work. He was a person who could change the fate of others with a raise of his hand. Are you okay? Li Zongjie looked at Wan Yulan. Although Wan Yulan's face was a little pale, it was obvious that the level of battle just now was not so easy for Wan Yulan to withstand. After all, there was such a big gap between them. Being able to withstand it was already very good. I'm fine. Wan Yulan shook her head and took a pill. Rumble. Li Zongjie and the others suddenly frowned. In the next second, the land of the 9 cities once again shook like the mountains were shaking. It was as if the earth was about to split open. At the same time, somewhere in the city, there was a sudden burst of tyrannical power that almost rushed into the sky. It rushed towards the sky. It seems that the Demon Suppression Palace is about to appear. Follow me. Immediately, everyone followed Li Zongjie, and rushed towards the place where the aura fluctuations erupted in the city. Chapter 11:16. Lu Baixian, who had managed to escape with his life after much difficulty. After experiencing Li Zongjiu's humiliation of sparing his life, Lu Baixian only felt that the strength he had cultivated for 200 years had all been wasted on a dog. Most importantly, he naturally needed to find someone to vent his anger. Yang Antai and the others, who had escaped for some distance, finally breathed a sigh of relief. They felt that the fierce battle was still going on behind them, which made them feel a lingering fear. Fortunately, we escaped quickly. I didn't expect this evil lord to be so powerful. It's a pity that the deputy sect leader sacrificed himself heroically. We have to report this to the sect leader and let him avenge the deputy sect leader. Yang Antai said with righteous indignation. The two people in front of him had lower positions than him. So naturally, they didn't dare to disobey Yang Antai. We'll follow Hall Leader Yang's lead. Haha, Yang Antai, you're really considerate. You even want to avenge me. Just as the three of them were colluding to completely blame Li Zongjiu for the death of the deputy sect leader, a cold voice rang out. Then, a powerful aura instantly enveloped the three of them. When they heard this voice, Yang Antai and the others felt their hearts beating violently. Oh no! How is this possible? When Yang Antai and the others saw Lu Baixian in front of them, their expressions could be said to be stunned. Deputy sect leader, why are you? Why am I still alive? Lu Baixian sneered. At this moment, he could finally vent his anger. The anger and resentment that had accumulated over such a long period of time could finally be recovered from these three people. You must be very sad that I'm still alive. Next, you have to hold on well, because I'll be very cruel. Then Lu Baixian also showed his powerful strength. After torturing the three people in front of him until half of their bodies were paralyzed, no matter how they begged for mercy, it was useless. In the end, he directly chopped down with his palm and ended their lives. The strong regarded the weak as ants. Not to mention a top expert like Lu Baixian, who had cultivated for so many years. He no longer cared about the lives of others. He had no respect for life. Everyone in the world could die, but he couldn't. After killing the three people to vent his anger, Lu Baixian didn't directly return to the sect. Li Zongjiu, you've only been cultivating for a few years. Do you think that you can fight me just because you have a few divine weapons? I'll let you know that the foundation of an expert over hundreds of years isn't just his own cultivation. There's a cold light in his eyes. And top-level connections. Immediately, Lu Baixian also flew out and headed into the distance. In the land of the 9 cities, 2 black shadows appeared in the nothingness in the sky. They had been watching the scene from the beginning. However, they didn't dare to reveal their auras. There were 3 Supreme Being experts at the scene just now. If they leaked even a little bit of their auras, they would be discovered by the other party. Therefore, they were completely hidden. After Li Zongjiu finished the battle, the city of the 9 cities exploded. Moreover, a wave of energy had already erupted within the city. It was the movement within the demon-suppressing palace. After that, Li Zongjiu and the others activated the defensive array again, covering the entire 9 cities. They also covered up the aura of the 9 cities. This guy is really despicable. He wants to take all the benefits for himself. He's really capable. No wonder he can lead people to destroy the deployment of Black Canal Basilica. 2 black-clothed men appeared. The 2 newcomers were none other than the Great Protector of Haiku Sacred Hall and the Vice Hall Master of Haiku Sacred Hall, who were cultivating on Haiku Sacred Mountain. The Demon Suppression Palace has appeared. We need to inform the Palace Master as soon as possible. The Great Guardian of Black Canal Basilica Zhu Sha, he said. There's no need to report this matter to the Palace Master. Although Li Zongjiu's strength is not weak, he relies more on his array magic treasure. I have something in my hand that can make his array magic treasure lose its effect for an hour. An hour is enough for us to kill them. The Deputy Palace Master of Black Canal Basilica, Soul Destroyer Supreme said. 2 Supreme Being experts. Could it be that they couldn't even deal with the 2 children in front of them? Although the two children were extremely powerful, and one of them had the power of the fire ancestor, so they couldn't be underestimated, they didn't need to pay too much attention to them. Otherwise, they would hesitate for a long time when encountering a child. How could such courage be worthy of their lifetime's cultivation? They aren't children anymore. They know how to report everything to their superiors. You have to see what's going on in this matter. If they were to obtain any benefits in the Demon Suppression Palace, it would definitely go into their own pockets first. Could it go into someone else's pocket? The great guardian Zhu Sha thought for a while and nodded firmly. Indeed, there were so many treasures in here that it seemed a little unbearable. But we still need to do some backup work. Then Zhu Sha condensed a dark yuan bird with his yuan force. 3 days later, we'll return to the sacred mountain and report the situation here. 3 days was enough for them to obtain a lot of treasures in the Demon Suppression Palace and kill Li Zongjio at the same time. They could seize the powerful formation treasure in his hands. They could even directly rob him of the fire ancestor's power. Let's go. Immediately, the two of them went into the 9 cities. However, they didn't break into the formation directly. If they did, Li Zongjio and the others would notice them in advance. Only by quietly approaching and launching a sneak attack would they have a higher chance of winning. When the two landed, they could clearly see the 9 cities from a distance of less than 500 meters. However, if they were to go further than 500 meters, there would be a mountain range, and they wouldn't be able to see any cities or buildings. What a strange formation. It actually has such a concealing effect. The two of them could be considered to have roamed the continent for many years. However, this was the first time they saw a formation with such a miraculous effect. When people walked in, they could clearly see the existence of the city. However, if you were far away, you wouldn't be able to see it at all. At this moment, Li Yun, who was repairing the Blackwater dry well, had a string of bells on her wrist shake by itself. Immediately, Li Yun's eyes flashed with a trace of surprise. However, Li Yun's eyes flashed with a trace of craftiness. Since that's the case, let this lady play with you first. If the two of them forced their way into the formation, with the strength of the maze formation, it naturally wouldn't be able to withstand a few attacks. However, if the two of them wanted to rely on their own wisdom to break through the formation, it would be difficult for them to walk out of the maze formation without any cultivation in formations. Immediately, Li Yun also urged the formation to buy some time for Li Zongjio and the others. At this moment, Li Zongjio and the others had arrived at the opening of the Demon Suppression Palace. The location was the former territory of the War City. The ground in front of them was constantly collapsing, and layers of stairs appeared. The dark entrance was like the entrance of a monster that swallowed everything. Even light couldn't enter. Before they even got close, they already felt a sense of danger. Have people seal off the surroundings. No one is allowed to come close. Wan Yulan ordered. The people in charge of these things were naturally handed over to Huang Weihu and the others. Yes, none of these people dared to be disobedient. After all, Li Zongjio and the others had shown their strength and beaten the people of the Haoyan sect to such a state. Wasn't their strength obvious? Would they only wake up when their fists hit them? Let's go, Li Zongjio said. As for Li Yun, entering the Demon Suppression Palace was also a dangerous thing. Li Zongjio had previously instructed Li Yun to wait outside. It would be best if she could hide. After all, the land of the 9 cities wasn't a safe place. Immediately, Li Zongjio, the King of Fire, Wan Yulan, and Zhou Bachuan walked down the stairs in front of them. The stairs were at least 5 feet wide, enough for dozens of people to walk side by side. Zhou Bachuan also entered with 6 of his subordinates. The rest were all outside to seal off the entrance. In his previous life, Li Zongjio had never been to the Demon Suppression Palace, so he wasn't clear about the routes inside. However, he knew that there were many treasures in the Demon Suppression Palace. Once these treasures were moved, the suppressed demons below would awaken. If you forcibly took away a treasure and didn't kill the demon, then when the demon revived, it would definitely release the seals on the other demons. In his previous life, some people were too greedy, and took away the demon suppression ruler. As a result, countless demons were released, which eventually led to the outbreak of a great disaster. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.